It's the young Kim.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, November 8th, 2018. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 1084.
This is No Agenda.
Surrendering my hard pass and broadcasting live from the capital of the Drone Star State here in downtown Austin, Tejas, in the Cludio in the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where we're worried about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
What are the chances on the day her documentary movie comes out that she breaks her hip? I mean, she's really going all in on the promotion.
That's sick.
It's true though. I said it's a coincidence. Did I not?
I would be more likely to think that the producers to get some publicity
pushed her.
I didn't say it.
Hey, Ruth. Oh, I'm so sorry. There's only 3 ribs, guys. We're good. The product is still viable. That's in theaters, I think, isn't it?
What, her operation?
Her operation. Her documentary.
I don't know. I don't even know there was one.
Yeah.
That makes nothing but sense now.
That's what I'm saying. Here, Ginsburg.
Yeah, I think you're right. You nailed it.
Let me see. It's what is it called again? Is it just called Notorious? I think. But actually, it looks really good.
They may have taken the title from the old Douglas. What's Kurt Douglas's kid? What's his name?
Douglas's kid. Kurt. Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas's.
Yes,
movie.
We have a winner.
I think they took the title from that.
Let me see.
Falling down.
Falling down. The title of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's new documentary, Falling Down. Help, I've fallen, I can't get up.
The suburbs or something. I forget what it is. Very good movie, by the way. Falling Down, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, that's a great movie.
It's one of the really...
It's where he goes nuts.
Yeah, you're really. I thought it fizzled out.
It really fizzled, but I've always liked that. In fact, that's one of the few movies I'd gladly watch again. I found it so entertaining. Yeah, where a guy just loses his crap in traffic and just goes and starts killing everybody.
Everyone he can.
Yeah.
Yes. Which turns out to be a lot of bad guys because he got stuck in traffic in Los Angeles, and so he was surrounded by
it was much worse.
Evildoers.
Yeah, much worse. Speaking of not really films, but I watched several episodes of the new House of Cards, which was just released on Netflix.
Okay.
And I do have something to say about it.
Since I watched the first season and I haven't watched anything since.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in this sort of being suckered into watching these things.
I think I watched the first. No, I think I watched the first and the second season, and I never saw 3 or 4. But I'm a fan of Robin Wright, and I wanted to see what the virtue signaling would be, as she is the female president of the United States.
Great virtue signaling.
Well, what's interesting is that there's lots of it. She fires the whole cabinet, hires a new cabinet, all women. There's tons of virtue signaling, but at the same time, they were very honest, I feel. And because now there's a lot of main characters are women, and they are vicious, conniving, and plotting and threatening each other like no men do. It's very interesting in that regard. Just really, really evil female stuff. They go after your kids. Guys, we'll kill you. No, he is like, your kid, right? Why don't we just let everyone know about his arrest record? It's all this whole nasty stuff. But the worst part, every single, almost, except for Amanpour, almost every single CNN talking head douche appears in this as themselves on CNN. I think that should be verboten.
Well, I think it's an ethical issue.
Yes, it's an ethical issue. Absolutely. It's not just like, okay, you're doing it just as well as you do it when it's about quote unquote real news. It's kind of scary how well you do that fakery. Yeah. Comes natural to them for some reason. And I just thought that was very obvious and unethical. Unethical. There you go.
Well, then we might as well get off to a good start here, and we'll get to the election stuff. I'm sure you've got some clips.
I have an anecdote.
Oh, I'm all ears.
So it's been a weird week.
Well, we could start with talking about Texas, Because they really love this Beto guy.
I'm going to get you right into that. So it's been a weird week. I've been here alone. Tina was out in Chicago. Her sister Angie passed away yesterday. So, and it's horrible. And so I'm sitting here, and it's very strange, and because I have no friends here pretty much except for a couple, and so I call up the couple, and once I had dinner with Sir Gene, and then the former New York banker. It's like, okay, that's about all I can do. So he says, and we just said a Tuesday, 6:00 at some place over on the east side. And, we usually just have a meal, a drink or two, and just catch up. And we get in there, we meet in front of the place, 6:00, and it's pretty empty. And that's one of these places that is like a Starbucks in a way, although it has a housey feel with more than Starbucks. But you have a bar and open kitchen on one side of this, of the place, and you get a number, and then they bring you whatever bar food and your drinks. And so I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden the place starts filling up, and he's looking at me, and he's starting to laugh. We were in the middle of Austin's Beto party.
Oh, great.
The screen went on.
You don't need friends.
The big screen went on. Free T-shirts. No hoodies, John. I did look for you. Free Beto T-shirts. And it starts to get packed. And this is ground central. There may have been one other.
This is a topper story.
This was the one. And I'd say it was probably.
No, wait, who'd you go with?
The former New York banker. He tricked me.
He took you there as a joke?
Yes, he tricked me. And I'm like, wait a minute. He says, I thought you would enjoy watching the election returns on the big screen here with all of the Beto fans. I'm like, oh, this is great. So I'm putting my shirt on. And now, let me give you a bit about the makeup of the room. I would say that it was 99.7% white. I think there were 3 black dudes, maybe 1 black girl I saw, and not even brown. It was just white, all wearing black Beto shirts. And I would say it was 40% women, 60% dudes. And these dudes were active. As in, they were hitting on every single woman in the place. It was just, it got to the point where I'm just like, wow. And there was a line of guys outside. Like there
was a pickup party.
Yeah, it seemed like it, but it was the party.
That's funny because one of our producers wrote us and said that he's been following the Beto thing, and he found that most of the hardcore supporters were all cat ladies.
No, there was no cat ladies. This was all young, very young. Some of them looking very stressed. But really, what was interesting is very early on, it started off and with 1% of the precincts reporting in Texas. Beto was 51% versus Cruz 48%. And
that got everyone worked up.
And whenever that happened, I'd be like, whoa! And if you know me, I'm like, whoa! And at a certain point, because I could see the screen, in the distance, it's at the other side of this restaurant bar. People start cheering. And I'm like, whoa! And it shows that there's more women winning in some districts. I'm like, whoa, women! Whoa! And the banker looks at me and says, okay, all right, just calm down a little bit. Now you're drawing attention. I'm like, but it's women. Don't you? Woo! So,
You're just making a mockery.
Well, no, I was getting into it. I had Beto fever.
Oh yeah,
Beto fever, baby. I was all over Beto fever. But so this didn't last very long, as it was kind of going boom, 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 boom. It was kind of neck on neck. Beto was still ahead every time they did an update or a local ABC News update. People get all crazy. Oh, it's 51, still 51, 48.5. And then, there was a lot of cheering. I know that they were more interested in the House, that the Democrats take the House, because very early, boom, Beto lost. And they called it. And I mean, it was within like half an hour, I think, or maybe an hour of the results coming in, and they called it for Cruz real quick.
Now that you mention this, I think that these networks or somebody should have a separate feed for these parties.
Well,
you don't need to be putting a wet blanket on all these campaign parties that are taking place for both sides by telling you what happened. I think they should let it stretch it out all the way so people can at least pick up the date for the night.
Yes.
Get out of there. Go watch the rest of it.
You know what? Yes. It was very disruptive. And what we were both paying attention, because I'm like, if you see anything weird for the show, let me know, besides everything. And so he lost. And then people were like, oh, woo, because the Democrats were up. And that was it. There was no crying. There was no hugging or so sorry. Nothing. People just kept on hitting on each other, drinking, and then, waiting for the Democrats to take the House. That's all. They weren't interested in Beto, and it was the Beto party. It was very odd.
That's not right.
It was just, it felt very disingenuous.
Yeah, it sounds like it was just hey, let's go to the Beto party. Maybe I can pick somebody up. Get some nice, co-ed from UT.
We left.
Lucky.
And we left at 9:30. There was still a line out the door of dudes trying to get in, and I'm sure it was a good place to be.
Well, in Austin.
Yeah.
Well, let's play the Beto clip then.
Okay.
I have the Texas going Democrat. This was a big CBS report, and I do have some comments about the media in this because we got a nasty note from somebody, which I'm remiss to read, but I'm going to read it anyway. I found that the media coverage for this entire election was so slanted. I think it was beyond the pale. Normally, they try to fake it a little bit, and the worst case scenario actually comes from PBS. PBS had the absolute war. The Judy. There goes the Zephyr. Once Gwen quit.
Stop everything.
What is the time?
It's late.
It's
very late. Zephyr.
Let's go with this CBS report. This is the overall report on Texas going Democrat.
Among the more than 24 House seats gained by the Democrats in the midterm elections, 2 are in Texas districts that were traditionally bright red. Omar Villafranca has more on this.
In suburban Houston, Democrat Lizzie Fletcher thanked her supporters.
All of you are here because you believe in this campaign.
After defeating 9-term Republican Congressman John Culberson. Republicans have controlled Texas's 7th district since the late 60s, when a young politician named George H.W. Bush won the seat. Fletcher's campaign was one of several that was part of the suburban revolt that helped Democrats take back control of the House. Democrats flipped at least 29 House seats, from Oklahoma to Virginia. One key, according to a CBS News exit poll, suburban women voters swung dramatically in this election. 53% of women voted for Democratic candidates compared to only 47% in 2014. Rice University political science professor Mark Jones.
Fletcher took advantage of the distaste among many of these Republican voters for Donald Trump.
Jones says another factor was Beto O'Rourke's appeal and his ability to bring out new voters.
Beto O'Rourke alone helps explain why we saw 12 Texas House representative seats flip from Republican to Democratic, 2 state Senate seats flip, and 2 congressional seats flip.
Lizzie appealed to me and even to my Republican husband because of what she stood for.
Republicans still control Texas on the state and federal level, but Jones says Beto O'Rourke's campaign could provide a blueprint for Democrats to gain power in the Lone Star State.
And I'm really surprised that Ted Cruz did almost no campaigning in Texas.
Yeah,
he did nothing. It's surprising. It's almost like he knows that I'll just call Mitt Romney. He's got the Baines investment in Diebold in the machines. The voting machine. Let's have him flip it. And that's how cavalier he was about it. Yeah.
Well, of course, then again, do you know that for a fact in places like Dallas? I mean, where they maybe was promoting himself in Dallas or places.
Well, they had the big one in Houston with Trump. That was the big one.
I'm just saying where Ted was putting his money. He did have some money. I mean, he didn't have as much as O'Rourke.
I'm just saying he didn't have the visibility at all towards the voters that Beto had.
Well, yeah, but again, as the media plays, they love Beto.
Of course. I wanted to play one quickie that I saw air before. It was on election day itself, before the polls opened. Michael Bloomberg did an ad. God. Yeah, right. But just listen to what he says here.
Hello. I speak to you today on the eve of the midterm elections, not as a Democrat or a Republican. I've been both. But as an American who is deeply concerned with the direction of our nation. Like you, I've watched the recent bombings and mass shootings with growing alarm.
The recent bombings and mass shootings? None of them went off. That's pretty egregious, I felt, when I heard it.
And actually, they can't even identify the goo that he put in those bombs. Apparently, none of it's explosive.
Gee.
But they won't talk about it. They're just reluctant to discuss it.
They have no.
So he said recent bombings again. Yeah.
I found
Good
that
catch.
I found it to be nasty here.
Like you, I've watched the recent bombings and mass shootings with growing alarm.
Yeah. What bombings were you watching? Just tell me what channel that's on. Bloomberg. I don't understand how that even gets on the air that way. Doesn't someone have to say? Well, I guess not.
You can keep stuff like that off the air if you wanted to.
Yeah, but then why would they shun money?
Well, shunning the money and shunning the message is good.
We
want that. It's good. It's good.
Yes. Okay.
Well, anyway, the Beto thing seems to was a big deal, but I noticed that the way they were doing these reports, there's a couple of things that really bugged me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start off with the stuff that bugged me the most.
All right.
And the person that was the biggest, I think, PBS, the whole group is disgusting. I'm talking about the NewsHour.
Yeah.
And let me play. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 clips. I think I can play that will make sense. Let's start with. Let's start with a couple of Judy clips so I can just give her a little grief. Here's Judy playing random Schumer clip for what reason I never could figure out.
Trump and his party now have good reason for worry.
Look, last night was a really good night for Democrats. And what happened last night doesn't bode well for President Trump and Republicans in 2020 and beyond.
And that was the clip she plays. What is the point of this? She also goes and
that's all. Schumer didn't say much else. She can't always play Trump.
I think the Democrats are very disappointed. I think both sides are disappointed, but the way they played it was very joyous for the Democrats. Just the way PBS they would play. Nothing.
I think everyone was playing it joyous that way. I personally am very joyous. I love it. I think it's much better to let's put some conflict in here. This is good.
Let's play Judy Says No New Regulations. This is a very interesting clip, and you see if you can identify why.
They were watching the election results everywhere. Wall Street rallied on the news from the election. Analysts said that divided government will likely mean no new taxes or government regulations and no repeal of the Affordable Care Act. The Dow Jones Industrial Average today gained 545 points.
Well, of course, I had a heads up because I subscribed to the No Agenda newsletter. So I know, and I love the simplicity of the analysis, that when they say, well, the Affordable Care Act, no worries about that. That won't be repealed. Let me guess, was the Dow Jones up because of pharma stocks?
Mostly, yeah, any health care.
Yeah.
Just went skyrocketing. But what really got me about that clip, was kind of maybe a misdirection, is this comment, because anyone who studies government, the modern way we do business, regulations do not come from Congress. They come from the agencies.
Yes, the laws come from Congress, and the agencies make up all the shit in between.
All the regulations come from the agencies. So the idea that there'll be no new regulations is incredibly, it's wrong-headed. I mean, it's not true. You can have any agency can start cranking out regulations because they were given the go-ahead by Congress years ago to do that.
Right.
Congress gave up their rights insofar as making regulations and laws, for that matter, to these agencies that have all these extra powers. Having worked for one, I'm very aware of how it works.
You were aware of your previous superpowers.
So then we go on with Lisa Desjardins, who is just a hardcore Democrat. And she's going on talking, and she's not only saying how great everything went, but even the losers are winners as far as she's concerned. She,
well, of course.
She does nothing to nothing about the other side to such an extreme that I do have a point to make about this after these clips. But let's start with Lisa Desjardins extolling the losers.
For O'Rourke in defeat, words that spoke of larger movements.
This team, of which we are all members, in some way is going to stay together and is going to continue to aspire to do great things.
That was also a theme for Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, another progressive who fell just short in his bid to flip the Florida governor's mansion to the Democrats.
I believe that we have to have a table in this state that is long enough, that is wide enough, that is deep enough to fit all of us. I still believe that we got to have that table. But y'all, we're just going to have to do a little bit more work in order to build that table.
But Gillum was more of an exception on a night where Democrats took over several Republican governors' mansions, defeating Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, winning in Kansas and in Michigan. But prosecutor Gretchen Whitmer is the governor-elect.
Goes on and she starts talking about the women. So now she's going to go, this is Lisa talking about all these women, these one of a kind, it's never happened before, this woman, that woman, this woman. And I want you to pay careful attention to this clip.
Democratic women stacked up a large number of firsts. Take Sharice Davids in Kansas, who is openly gay. She and another winner last night will be the first Native American women in Congress.
The core of this campaign has been about trying to figure out ways to make sure that as many voices and experiences as possible that we have in this community are being heard by our elected representatives.
Ayanna Pressley and Jahana Hayes will each be the first black women in Congress from their New England states, and Democrats Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar will be the first two Muslim women to serve in Congress. For each party, some wins. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Lisa Desjardins.
Wait, Lisa. Lisa, what about any Republican women?
No. But she left off AOC. I'm very surprised.
AOC's been sidelined, I think, if you haven't noticed.
Yes, I have. But if you're doing
somebody said, "Hey, let's stop talking about her," because if you put a mic in front of her, she makes herself out to be a moron.
Yeah.
So that's not. So they cut her out. But they go on and on about this. But the one that got me was the first black woman in her state. Never mentioning once the first, unfortunately, because it's a Republican, the first Korean woman in the United States ever to be elected to the House of Representatives. It wasn't mentioned on CBS. It wasn't mentioned on NBC. It wasn't mentioned. And not only that, but it took over Ed Royce's position, who was head of, I think, Armed Forces, old slot in, and she took his spot, and she did it in California, which was kind of news in itself. That some Republican would win. But no, this Korean woman was completely blacked out. And I do have I said I'm going to find a clip where somebody mentions her.
And unfindable.
No, it was findable on Korean TV.
Oh, jeez.
And this is the clip is at the bottom. It's Young Kim. Her name is Young. It would like Young Kim, and this is the clip.
History during the 2018 U.S. midterm elections as Young Kim was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, becoming the first Korean-American woman to win a coveted spot in the U.S. Congress. Easton J. has this report.
A historic day at the 2018 U.S. midterm elections as California's 39th congressional district election saw Republican Young Kim beat Democrat Gil Cisneros, garnering 51.3% of the votes. Kim becomes the first Korean-American woman to be elected into Congress and the first Korean-American in 20 years to be elected. It was an emotional victory for the self-made woman who won the tight race.
Despite all of the millions of dollars that came at me, this is one election that we can prove that we cannot buy ourselves into a seat.
Ed Royce, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, announced his retirement from California's 39th district seat in January and had endorsed Kim since then.
I want to share with you that over that span of time, in my opinion, for the people that I've met in public service, no one has ever worked as hard as young Kim.
Well, you know,
you don't think this is significant?
Yeah, of course it is. But are you surprised? Yeah, I guess for PBS, I am a little surprised actually.
PBS is lost.
Or maybe just the news hour. Well, the news hour is its own team. It's not all of PBS, but the news hour sounds very lost. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's a woman. It's a woman. It was the two themes were the blue wave, which crapped out. You know, the funny thing is about these news, the way they handle this whole election. I used to write for a bunch of different financial publications, and the first thing you learn if you're going to do a stock market analysis is if the market goes up, you find some event to blame it on. And the funny thing is you can say, oh, the stock market went down as a reaction to the Fed raising rates.
Right. That's easy.
But if the stock market goes up, you look for something. And so you can say, well, the stock market went up as a counter reaction to the Fed raising rates.
Yes.
So you take the same element and you can play it two different ways. The news media could play this election as the Democrats would promised us they were going to do a lot better, and they didn't. And you could play the whole thing that way. Oh, and this guy lost, and that guy in Florida, Gillum, lost, instead of going on what a great guy he is and playing a piece of his speech,
yeah, his concession
speech, the way that Lisa Desjardins did.
Yeah.
She played it up. Oh, Beto lost, but Beto's the future.
Yeah.
You could have said Beto is obviously not the future. He spent too much money and he's a loser. I mean, you can play
loser, just loser. Capital L. Go home, Beto.
You can play it any way you want, but they obviously played it this way. But it becomes so apparent when you leave out young Kim.
Yes.
And they left her out. They just kicked her to the curb. A woman.
Yes. The No Agenda Show now proudly stands behind young Kim.
We're all behind young Kim.
We are behind young Kim.
She's ethnic.
Yes, she's a woman.
She's Asian. She's a woman.
Is
she's
she
smart.
gay?
Everything
Oh, is she gay? Is she gay? That would be perfect.
It would be, but she's not. I don't think so.
Okay. Does wait, mixed marriage, mixed racial marriage? White guy?
I don't know.
Oh.
But where is even a single mention of her on CBS, NBC, ABC, and specifically, which is what I'm really complaining about, is PBS, which is supposed to be the best of the group, and it's not.
And I'm thinking, I don't even know if the president congratulated her.
I think he's surrounded by people that aren't working with him. He probably doesn't know either. He would have actually, if he knew, he would have made a bigger fuss.
I think so too. Yeah, because he talked about, well, he did something. First of all, I loved that whole press conference. I'm like, it was almost like the day after Christmas, and you find something under the tree. Oh, here's a package I haven't opened yet. That press conference was it to me. I really, really enjoyed it from beginning to end. I was riveted.
Well,
It was a new Trump. It was a different Trump. He was being really calm. He was very, he was like collected. He was talking with the press for a long time. And, we got he let all kinds of other people speak, like from bloggers, I think, from Brooklyn. And he got, some, lots of little fireworks going there. But, I thought it was perfect. And he was saying, well, here's these people who do, basically the never Trumpers in the Republican Party. He said, well, you didn't want me to help you out, so there you go, loser. It's like, to his own people, they're losers.
That was pretty funny. But I still think that the highlight of that was the Jim Acosta.
Well, what I'd like to do is the full dust up is only 2 minutes and 37 seconds.
I have one that's 3:14 that I think is actually as full.
Oh, okay. Well, I cut out the last bits, but we can use that one because it's. I mean,
it goes into the Peter Alexander question. Peter Alexander kind of attacks the president in an offhanded way.
Right. I got that too. What else is after that? I don't know why yours is longer. That's kind of weird. Now, where is it? You've got Tapper. No,
I got entire. It's under the word entire.
Makes nothing but sense. All right, let's play it now. I'll give you my view right off the bat. is this is, I think it's meant to be. Trump calls on him. He knows something's going to happen. He needed it. He wanted it. He wanted to put Acosta in his place. Acosta just willing, just perfect, jumps in. And the reason why Trump was right in every regard is he's not even asking a question when he starts off. So I want to challenge you. And so when you say to someone opening a question, I want to challenge you on something, then you know what? I knew immediately, this is not going to go well. And then all the other stuff that happened is perfect. Acosta did a great job. That's what he does. CNN. I was watching CNN to see the outrage. I'm sure they got a nice spike in the ratings. But of course, he was incredibly rude, and the president called him out on it after having some patience. And it was just, again, it was the lost present under the Christmas tree the day after Christmas.
Hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let.
What? That's where you start?
You can start at yours.
Yeah, I'm going to start.
I go deeper.
No, though. It's much more important to start here.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the.
Yeah, he starts off. I want to challenge you. That's why Trump was like, okay.
Statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign, in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
I love that. Thank you very much for explaining that to me. It's like
now the other
microaggression.
Thing is, what kind of a press conference is where you're not? This is not asking questions. This is making accusations.
Yes. That's why.
I'm surprised that. Well, I thought that that this was a fake deal and that Acosta. I have to give you my early thoughts. That Acosta should be kicked out of there. I mean, you can revoke his credentials. Yeah. You can not allow him in the building. And because they've never done that, I always assumed that this was all part of a grand scheme because it's good theater. And then later, Acosta's credentials were pulled. Mm-hmm. Which he found out later.
Well, and the reason for that is they say that he laid hands on the intern.
Well, he pushed her arm down.
Whatever. Please.
I'm not going to argue about
wait, let me say something right now. When you have an audience, I don't care if it's a seminar or if it's a press conference or whatever it is, you do not let the audience ever, even if it's reporters, hold the mic. This is a bad idea. Never should you. And they always want to grab the mic. Don't let them grab the mic.
I've been to plenty of things where a mic is passed around.
I know. So I think it's a mistake. I think it's always a mistake.
Well, a lot of the smart money has a mic on a stand.
Yeah, exactly. Have it on a stand. Yes.
But that would be funnier with these guys.
And,
but that's not going to happen.
Be able to turn it off when someone's just annoying. Anyway.
Well, they don't have that capability.
Yes, they do. They just don't do it.
A group of migrants moving up.
Wait, let me finish my thought. Gee. So, because I want to go through the progression here. So I figured that he was not going to get his credentials pulled because it was theater, and then they got him pulled, and then you say, well, it's because he touched the woman, and
that was the excuse. They use that as an excuse. They use that as an excuse,
but I didn't think much of it. I said, if it's technically, yeah, he did. And some people said, he didn't, including the CNN woman who says he didn't touch her. Well, he did. It's pretty clear. It wasn't, he just pushed, he pushed her arm down because she was grabbing for the mic. She's making a lunge for the mic, actually. And so they found that's the reason. And I said, well, I guess my theory's gone.
What was your theory?
Then.
That it was just a setup, yeah? Show.
My theory was that it was always going to be good, but then they pulled his credentials, and I said, what was that all about? Well, then I said, so I figured I was wrong. But then I realized, because I have another clip, which was on CNN, where Acosta comes on and gives his side of the story, and he's talking to Jake Tapper, and they're all gassed. Yeah. And this clip I realized was before they pulled his credential.
Oh, this is
because he was all giddy and he's still playing the game. But what happened, I believe, and the reason his credential was pulled was CNN had written a terse memo to the president. Saying, well, you're full of crap. And they went on and on about it. And I think that's the reason they say, okay, really? Fine. Credentials pulled, our game is over.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
That sounds more like the real reason.
Yeah.
Because Tapper wasn't pulled. I mean, they could have pulled around this, kicked him out. They brought security in. You touched the woman and thrown him out.
But ultimately, I mean, it was great. And what is always so sad is that the media only plays the little bits and little clips, and they don't go through the progression of what happened. I mean, he doesn't ask a question. He says, I want to challenge you. And then there's 2 or 3 questions answered. Everybody kind of got one and maybe one follow-up. And then the president says in the White House, okay, enough. Can you stop? And then he just kept going. That's just an end of story to me. I don't care who the president is.
Well, the other thing is...
And by the way, Obama should have done the same thing. Instead, he went, no. That's what he would do. He should have done the same thing. Like, I'm telling you to shut up in the White House. Actually,
apparently
he did say
some
that.
People,
he did say that.
Some people in the press corps...
You're in my house.
...are happy that this happened because apparently it cost us a mic hog.
Obviously.
And when he was on this, I do have this clip for later, the Tapper Acosta clip. I didn't realize it, but when I started watching him, he is one of those guys who apparently used to do a lot of what they call stand-up.
Yeah.
And that is the guy in the field where you throw it to him, and he can talk as long as you want him to.
Yeah.
Do you need 10 minutes? No problem. You need 5 minutes? You want 1 minute. Doesn't make any difference. This guy can keep talking
and he can do it exactly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, whatever you want. That's what these guys do.
And he can nail it, and he can go forever.
Yeah.
And his tendency is to go forever, and he does it on the other show.
Yeah.
And so people don't. The other people want to ask questions too.
Yeah. No, of course it was rude. I'm sure everyone's a little tired of it. It was a good press conference. I pulled some stuff out of value, which I'll play later. But let's. Do you want to play those Acosta clips? Or you want to go back to the challenge?
No, I want to go back to the press conference. I'll play the Acosta clips later.
Well, if you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think
I like that? Now he was doing a lot of this. Yeah, we just have a difference of opinion.
I think that you demonized immigrants in this election to try to keep
them. I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process.
And I'm so tired of the M5M playing this line that, they just want a better life. And yeah, but they always leave out the legal versus illegal part. And I don't know if it was, I've seen this clip actually where Trump says that we need these people.
And I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing.
See, no one plays that part of the clip where he's saying we need the people. We need them to come in, but we need them to come in legally. No one plays that.
Migrants climbing over walls and so on.
Hold on. Stop. I'm going to ask you the same thing you asked me a minute ago. This surprises you?
Hey, man.
They weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. Right. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was
enough.
going to ask one of the other folks.
See, this is where he just needs to shut up. I don't care who it is. Even if it was that old bag who's now dead. Remember her?
Oh, yeah.
What was her name in the front?
Helen Thomas.
That Obama kicked out after the 1 week in office. You remember? Obama came in.
Helen Thomas.
Yes, I know. I'm saying. I heard you the first 3 times.
Oh, it sounds like I was dead Mike.
No. Do you remember when Obama kicked her out in like the first month of his presidency?
Shameful.
Yeah, shameful. Yeah, and then they BDS'd her because she said Israel is doing horrible things, and
right, yeah,
and then bad Jew, yeah. Or maybe she was she? What was she?
I think she was Armenian or
Armenian,
something.
Maybe,
Greek.
yeah.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question,
let's
if
go.
I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you
What a dick. I mean, he's literally said that's enough. Let's stop.
concerned that you may have
I'm not concerned
indictments-
about anything with
that you
the
may have
Russian
indictments coming
investigation
down?
because it's a hoax.
Are you?
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this
See,
Uh,
investigation?
now even the journalists are going, dude, shut up.
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not
like
a big
the rest
fan of
us.
yours either, so,
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question, if I can. You repeatedly said...
You aren't the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of the...
Okay, just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
He couldn't explain it more often. Was there more on your clip that you wanted to get into? Or was that it?
No, there was a couple of things because Peter Alexander continued in kind of a funny way that was, again, more accusatory, but it was light compared to Costas. But I would rather like to play the rest of that.
A lot of elections last night. We want to hold them very close because
Wait a minute.
No. You got to go way back.
back. I got you.
CNN should be ashamed of itself
Right there.
having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible.
Oh, forgot to mention, during the Beto party, when Sarah Huckabee, because the screen had ABC on, who had an airplane hangar with 18 people at 4 desks. It was the most ridiculous roundabout thing I've ever seen. Sarah Huckabee Sanders came on, the whole place started booing her. It was bizarre.
Wow.
Yeah. Boo!
Why are they booing a woman?
I don't know. I'm just reporting.
Treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not a
like the
big
rest
fan of
us.
yours either, so
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question, if I can. You repeatedly said...
You aren't the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of the...
just sit down, please.
Yeah, this is Acosta. Acosta kept standing up again without the mic, just yelling stuff.
When you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of the last several days of the campaign, sir, at the end of the campaign, you repeatedly said that Americans need to fear Democrats. You said Democrats would unleash a wave of violent crime that endangers families everywhere. Why are you pitting Americans? Why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
Peter, what are you trying to be him?
No,
Peter,
I'm just asking a question.
Let me just tell you. Very simple. Because they're very weak on crime. Because they have often suggested, members and people within the Democrat Party at a high level have suggested getting rid of ICE, getting rid of law enforcement. That's not going to happen, okay? We want to be strong on the borders. We want to be strong on law enforcement. And I want to cherish ICE because ICE does a fantastic job. What they do for us is so... Really, it's so unrecognized how good a job they do. So we want to take care of them, and we want to hold them very close because they do a good job.
But the question, to be clear, though, the question,
Thank you very much.
Why are you
sit down?
But the question, but you didn't answer my question. Just very simply, the question is, why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
I'm not.
Is that how you view citizens of this country?
I'll tell you what. We won a lot of elections last night. We did very well last night.
But in many ways,
I think it's going to have a very positive impact. I watched NBC this morning. They didn't report it exactly, but that's, very, very, that's the fact with NBC. Nothing I can do about that. But I want this country to have protection. We want security in our country. I want security, Peter. I mean, you maybe don't think it's so important. And I think when you don't have it, you are indeed unleashing crime. I feel that.
You said you would sign an executive order on birthright citizenship. Are you still going to sign the executive order on birthright citizenship?
You'll ask me that question a little bit later. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
Well, so his accusation was, why are you pitting Americans against each other?
Yeah.
What is that? What kind of question?
These are not intelligent questions.
Well, they're not questions. They're kind of accusations in the form of a question.
They're statements.
Are you still beating your wife?
Yes.
You still beating her?
Are you still a wife beater? Yes.
I don't beat my wife. Well, I thought. Well, Are you still beating her? It's very.
Did you see the whole thing? Did you see the
poor
whole
form? I didn't watch. I saw about 30 minutes.
The whole thing is interesting.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. I like the thing where he starts going after the guys who were. Well, let's play, since we still have Acosta thing. I want to play this Acosta clip, but he does have the.
Because I got some more from the press conference, so we got to circle back.
Yeah, no, I want to definitely, because this is going to segue right into what you're going to do, because Acosta talks about this, and then you can play that clip because I hope you have it. This is Tapper Acosta.
Probably not.
What do I got here? Tapper Acosta, CNN, 8 seconds.
Let's listen.
But President Trump did something that I've never seen an American president do, which is go on a personal rant against you for the questions you were attempting to ask.
A rant. I've never seen that. A rant. All right.
Okay, now we'll get to the crux of it, which leads to your clip.
You were attempting to ask.
Well, Jake, when they go low, we keep doing our jobs. I mean, that's the way I look at it. And, I had a question to ask. And if we had played the tape a little bit before that exchange.
No, you had an accusation, you douche. It wasn't a question.
You would have seen the question that I was asking, which was essentially about this lie that he told before the midterm elections, that this caravan of migrants moving from Central America to the U.S. border with Mexico is somehow an invasion, when it's not. They're still hundreds of miles away, and they pose nothing of a threat to the United States. But the president used that language, obviously, as we've talked about so many times, to galvanize his base. He just didn't like hearing that question.
If you don't stop him, he'll just keep going.
He didn't like being challenged on that point, and he certainly doesn't like being called out for his falsehoods. But, of course, Jake, as you were just mentioning, that's our job. That's what we do over here. That's what Wolf did when he was over here as a White House correspondent as well. And we just can't be intimidated by that sort of thing. I was struck by...
What is that buttering up Brolf? Like, that's what Wolf also did when he was, white. In other words, like, you're the next Brolf? What are you saying?
No, he wants to get enough hits on the Brolf show.
Exactly. The fact that the president, we thought, was going to come in there and do this victory lap, it sounded very much like a pity party. The way he was talking about lawmakers that wouldn't stand by him on the GOP side in various House races, he seems to be sort of unaware of the fact that his immigration rhetoric and his rhetoric on many levels was just turning off a lot of those suburban swing district voters. That's why people like Mike Kaufman in Colorado were staying away from him, and he just doesn't understand that.
All right.
Okay, before you play your clip, I got to say something about this Mike Kaufman thing. I think it's Kaufman or Hoffman. This guy, because I looked him up, he was the sitting representative. He was already in the House. He was a Trump hater. He's a Trump, never Trumper Republican, U.S. Marine. Been in Colorado, representing Colorado for a long time. He would take none of Trump's help. Trump called him out on it, and he lost by 10 points to a newbie.
Yeah,
who had no political experience, relatively speaking. He was an ex-Army Ranger, so he's like, I just was stunned by this. But the way Acosta presents it is that, well, Trump was toxic, and that's why this guy told him to get lost. But the guy told him to get lost, and he lost.
Exactly.
I mean, is that part of the equation? Do we want to bring that into the picture? No. Is it maybe something we want to analyze a little bit? No.
Why?
Meanwhile, of course, Acosta was feeling. I could have played. I think he was on for another 15 minutes.
Well,
he
actually,
was feeling his oats, because this was before he got.
Well, no. Let me play the oat sowing clip with Tapper and Acosta.
I think we need to note the president started out by doing a dance on the graves of Republicans who did not show him enough fealty.
I love this. Wow. Doing a dance on the grave, baby.
Republicans who, for their own purposes, many of them in those suburban districts that turned away from President Trump, where he was toxic.
See, there's the same toxic. They're calling him toxic, even though he literally called out all of those never Trumpers who didn't want him and who lost. This is skewed reporting, obviously.
That commercial was toxic. His language was toxic.
His butt sweat is toxic. The man's toxic. He's just toxic. Orange man bad.
Like Congressman Carlos Curbelo in Florida. People like Congresswoman Barbara Comstock in Virginia. People like Congresswoman Mia Love in Utah, who, by the way, her race hasn't been called yet. So his saying that she lost is premature. She may actually end up winning that.
Did she win?
I don't know that she did.
No.
He danced on their graves. He said because they didn't embrace him, they lost.
Toxic Trump dances on graves. Film at 11.
And he was flip about it. He almost seemed to be happy about the fact that Congressman Mike Coffman, a Republican from the suburbs of Denver, lost.
Yes, I think he made that very clear.
Because he didn't want the president's support. I've never seen a president take delight in people of his own party losing. And
Stop the clip. I watched this part. He wasn't that delightful. He was irked. He was snide.
No, okay, I'll give that to you. Yes,
he was snide, very snide.
He was
very irked, and he was. And I think he felt insulted. I'm the president. You know.
No, well, you're probably right. I probably have too much Dementia B watching in me. I'm like, yeah, he was kind of smug about it, but maybe you're right. He was pissed. Maybe he was, just like idiots. That's possible. That's possible. 12.
Yeah, he needs those people to be in the House, and they were stupid, and they lost. Everybody he supported mostly won. I think there's a few that didn't, especially all the senators didn't. They're happy that they got in. Obama went out on the trail, and they don't want to talk about this, but everybody he was stumped for lost.
Here's that was actually the wrong clip. Here's Acosta. This clip does contain Acosta with Anderson Cooper.
I also want to read a statement that CNN's just released. The statement reads: "The White House announced tonight that it has revoked the press pass of CNN chief White House correspondent Jim Acosta. It was done in retaliation for his challenging questions at today's press conference. In an explanation, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders lied. She provided fraudulent accusations and cited an incident that never happened. This unprecedented decision is a threat to our...
bugs me. The incident did happen. It's minor. It's
very minor. It's very minor.
I think it's minor, too. But it happened.
It did happen. Yes, it did happen. Well, he didn't lay hands on her. He swatted her arm down. And she did look kind of surprised, but she lunged for the mic. She had the mic in her hand, and he pushed her away. And I think they both had a moment of like, what just happened there? But it did happen. It wasn't. He was
trying to chop just from. I'll go Dimension A completely. He was karate chopping her arm right at the elbow point, hoping it would break.
Man, what a douche!
Democracy and the country deserves better. Jim Acosta has our full support. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I was just trying to ask a question of the president at this press conference, and it was obviously a question they didn't like. It was about his racist ad on the caravan that they were running before the midterms.
Did you see that ad? Was it indeed racist? Why was it racist?
I never saw it.
Racist.
That's the ad that supposedly has all these illegal aliens
running over
blowing up some town or something.
It's racist. It's racist.
He and I were going back and forth there, and as you can see in this video, this intern came up to me. They're describing her as an intern. I don't really know who she is, and attempted to take the microphone away from me. All I can say at that point is that I was trying to hang on to the microphone so I could continue to ask the president questions.
It was kind of sad because I've seen this clip now with his chops in slow-mo, everything zoomed in, and I'm looking at the poor girl because it happens. She has this moment of kind of shock. She looks at Acosta, turns to the president, looks at him, and then it's just a moment, it's just. And
she has a befuddled look on her eyes, and he gives her that. We didn't see him because they don't show that, but I think he gave her a cue to
crouch down, get out of the way because bullets will fly. Yeah, I felt bad for her.
Could be hurt.
Yeah, it's like, hey, how was your? I mean, they say that White House interns get abused, but geez, easy does it, DC.
Obviously, I didn't put my hands on her or touch her as they're alleging, and it's just unfortunate that the White House is saying this. We all try to be professional.
He didn't even touch her.
Yeah, that's even better. Yeah, it's okay. Gee, are you surprised?
So who's the liar? Yeah, oh, there you go.
This is the Are You Surprised? This is the Are You Surprised show.
Professionals over there, and I think I handled myself professionally, and I appreciate all of the comments from my colleagues. I do think, Anderson, that this is a test for all of us. I do think they're trying to shut us down to some extent inside the White House press corps, and to some extent I think they're trying to send a message to our colleagues.
Yeah, this is sending a message to everybody. They'll shut you down. They'll take your hard pass away. Okay, I have a couple more clips that I just want to get in here, and then we do have to talk about some conclusions. Nancy Pelosi started her press conference just a little bit before the president ended his. It was not at all as entertaining. Actually, this isn't even from the press conference. This is when they won. It's just a short clip, and I think it was just cute.
It's about stopping the GOP and Mitch McConnell's assaults on Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, and the health care of 130 million Americans living with pre-existing medical conditions. Let's hear it more for pre-existing medical conditions.
Yay! Yay! More pre-existing medical conditions. Woo! Yay! I thought that was funny. That was funny. Let's hear it. We need more people with pre-existing conditions. Woo! Yay! So after this whole Acosta thing, there was a few more confrontations. April Ryan stood up and asked something, and he didn't recognize her. He didn't give her the mic, and he told her to shut up and sit down, which is probably right on. But so at a certain point, he's like, okay, this is kind of going along. He's answering questions. And
should we keep this going for a little while?
Yes.
And this came up a couple of times. People even before they started their question, saying, Mr. President, this is great. Could you do this more often? This is really fantastic. And I think Trump even talked about how he hadn't done press for a month and it didn't go well. And then I had to do more press because, I have to keep our message going, my message, which gets distorted. I mean, he was making some sense. He was not dropping as many full words and sentences as usual, which was surprising. And so he was, after the Acosta thing, he's kind of in a vibe, and he calls on the reporter from PBS.
Should we keep this going for a little while?
Yes, I think you should keep this going.
When you get bored, would you please tell me? Seriously. Tell me. You're never bored. I don't want to, hopefully not. I don't want to overstay, but please go ahead.
Hi, Mr. President. Yamiche Alcindor with PBS NewsHour. On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying that the president.
It's such a racist
There
question.
are some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists because of your rhetoric. What do you make of that?
I don't believe it. I don't know. Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans? Why do I have among the highest poll numbers with African Americans? I mean, why do I have my highest poll numbers? That's such a racist question. Honestly, I mean, I know you have it written down and you're going to tell me. Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
And Mr. President,
I love it. You know what the word is? I love our country. I do. You have nationalists, you have globalists. I also love the world. And I don't mind helping the world, but we have to straighten out our country first. We have a lot of problems. Excuse me. But to say that, what you said, is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
And Mr. President.
Now, I don't know if the question was racist. I don't think it was a racist question.
Well, here's the problem. It's a thorn in, as she would put it later on the PBS NewsHour, a thorn in his side.
His racism.
No, it's the fact that the left has really made this word nationalism.
Oh, right.
Into white nationalism by definition.
Yes.
And so she is bringing this point up from a leftist perspective of PBS NewsHour, and he just found it offensive.
Well, he said, yeah, of course it's offensive, but he called it racist, which was not racist.
Well, because it brings in the white nationalists are, by definition, racist. And so because it goes like this. You said nationalism, which means white nationalism by anybody's standards except maybe yours and a few other people that are living in the 18th century when nationalism meant something different.
It was very insulting.
Well, he said it was insulting.
Yeah.
But I think on a meta level, it was racist.
Well, by today's standards, of course, it was. You just said use white.
Not?
I'm sorry, you have a piece of white paper. It's racist. It's got to stop now. Yellow pad paper, people. Now
I thought she handled it poorly. She's not very good. This woman.
No.
I don't know why they're keeping her on. And she shows up at a lot of very left-wing events. She's an extreme left-winger.
Yeah, but please notice we always have the black reporter ask the racist question. It may just be scheduling. I don't know.
That is why on the funniest bit on Seth Meyers' Late Show is he's got a black writer woman who's, I think, a lesbian, and he brings her on to tell off-color jokes because he can't tell.
Oh,
these
yes,
jokes.
I've seen this bit. Yeah.
And it's actually quite funny because she'll tell some of the most extremely offensive and off-color racist jokes.
A white guy can't say. Yes.
That a white guy can't say, which makes his point. But he's also he's making a point and missing a point at the same time when he does this bit. But okay.
So I've figured out most of what the president is hiding with his tax return because this came up. And, man, Trump, he sometimes... You got to listen. You got to listen very carefully because you get used to the half sentences and half words. And I've gotten pretty good at filling it in. But he also dropped some bombs. To me, they were bombs saying, okay, I don't know exactly what it is yet. Maybe it's a question for the banker. He might know because, his bank used to lend money to Trump, which, by the way, everyone was always happy with, he says. Everybody always liked doing business with him. They made a lot of money. But this is about his tax returns, and listen to his giveaways, really.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. And picking up there, you told me the other day that you are an open book. So
I think I am an open book.
So point blank, Democrats go after your tax returns. Will you try to block that, or will you allow them to have them?
Well, look, as I've told you, they're under audit. They have been for a long time. They're extremely complex. People wouldn't understand them. They're done by among the biggest and best law firms in the country. Same thing with the accounting firms. The accountants are a very, very large, powerful firm from the standpoint of respect. They're highly respected. Big firm. A great law firm, you know it very well. They do these things. They put them in.
They do these things. They put them in. Okay, so that was my first clue.
But people don't understand tax returns. Now, I did do a filing of over 100 pages, I believe, which is in the offices. And when people went and saw that filing and they saw the magnitude of it, they were very disappointed. And they saw the detail. You'd get far more from that. But it's a great company, but it's big and it's complex and it's probably feet high.
It's complex.
It's a very complex instrument.
It's a very complex instrument. So whoever his tax firm is, they're very well respected, have a lot of power. They put some financial instrument into his mix because he just said that to us. He just said it. You wouldn't understand it. Those guys, they put it in. It's a very complex instrument. I don't know what it is, but
I bet it's a whopper.
I bet it's something really fabulous that that erases billions of debt or makes him not pay any taxes.
That's something. Yeah, he probably paid no taxes.
It's probably zero taxes, and it's probably so awesome when you see it. You're like, I made $5 billion paid, and I got a refund. So it could be one of those.
It could be. And
it could be a refund. Actually,
he may be under some non-disclosure.
Because it's a proprietary deal
mechanism.
Yeah.
And I bet you there's a proprietary thing going on here, and they have found some loophole, which is what the New York Times kind of hinted at.
Now that's a good point, John. This is a proprietary thing they've done, and it may be an instrument that his very well respected firm, maybe with some other very well respected bank, put some instrument together.
Yeah, that only they know how it works.
Yeah,
and only they don't want it revealed because it's a competitive edge against the other tax firms.
Someone in the troll room said he files a 1040 EZ.
Well, be just as embarrassing.
Yeah.
But
I think you're right. It's some kind of instrument. It's proprietary, which has been the real reason. And it would look like he paid no tax, or I think worse, he got a refund. It's got to be like some some crazy $1 billion refund. It'll look like a refund. It's something weird. So, but he kind of gave that away. I love listening to the guy. If you really pay attention, then you can hear these little things.
Well, that's going to be one of the things they go after.
Yeah, like just so important for the world. I'm so happy we're going after that.
They're looking for a competitive edge.
Yeah.
And
I got one more. Now, this was interesting to me because I've been following ever since
Jamal Khashoggi.
Ever since Khashoggi, I've been following a number of things: the oil flows, the relationship between Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Russia, Qatar, Israel. This is very interesting. Now, of course, we have the sanctions in place as well, which is SWIFT, which I have done some research on and want to talk about later on. But this is a question about Erdogan, and I had to go back, and it was the president of Turkey, which is kind of funny because Trump doesn't hear the guy, and then the guy thinks he's stupid because he doesn't know who Erdogan is, which really shows you his weak spot. When people think he's stupid, it really irritates the hell out of him. You'll hear it right at the beginning.
President Erdogan said he's not going to follow your sanctions, and he's going to keep buying oil from...
Who said that?
President Erdogan, Turkey.
I know.
And you're going to meet him soon.
Just can't understand his...
Okay.
I can't understand you, brown fuck. That's what he's thinking.
You're going to meet him soon. You're going to have this talk. And some countries are going to take the same steps that President Erdogan is doing.
So let me just tell you about the oil, okay? So we imposed, just recently, the strongest sanctions in the history of our country, just about. Well, I guess North Korea's there too. But I gave some countries a break on the oil. I did it a little bit because they really asked for some help. But I really did it because I don't want to drive oil prices up to $100 a barrel or $150 a barrel, because I'm driving them down. If you look at oil prices, they've come down very substantially over the last couple of months. That's because of me, because you have a monopoly called OPEC. And I don't like that monopoly. I don't like it. And oil prices are coming down. So rather than deciding to be as tough as I am on most of the sanctions, what I've done is I said, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to let some of the oil go out to these countries that really do need it, because I don't want to drive the oil prices up to $100 or $150 a barrel, which could happen very easily. It's a very fragile market, very, very fragile. I know it very well, and it's the absolute right decision. And they'll get tougher as time goes by, maybe. But I don't want to have any effect on the oil prices worldwide where I drive them up, because I consider that to be a tax, and I don't like taxes.
You know, and amidst all of this, he did say at the United Nations, I'm pissed about the oil prices, and they are going down. I mean, I looked at the monthly, and it was down, $15?
Yeah, well, it goes up, it goes down.
But let's just remember, it goes up, it goes down. Well, hold on a second. Let's take a look at the chart. Well, here we go. So 1 month, it was $75 on the 11th of October, 9th of October, and today it's 61. That's WTI crude. So that's a drop.
Yeah.
But maybe, actually, if you look at it from, when did the Khashoggi thing happen? Did that happen around October? The beginning of October? This is rather interesting.
The middle of October, I think. October 4th, maybe?
October 4th? Well, October 3rd, oil was at a year-long high, a year high of, let me see here. It's almost $75. And it just goes down from there. Now, remember, he said that. He was pissed off. This is before Khashoggi. He said at the United Nations. It went up a little bit from there because that was September. Went up. We hit 75. Khashoggi happens. Trump gets pissed off. price comes down. There's stuff going on. I mean, we're back to, what is it? We're back to April's price. So I just don't think it's coincidental.
Well, probably not.
And I like how he says it's a tax. Yes, thank you. Finally, a politician who just says it. High gas price is a tax.
Yeah, well, in California, they just they make taxes. We'll talk about that after the break.
Okay. But we have a lot of foreign listeners who live in America. We have a lot of foreign listeners. So I think the analysis.
I was looking at some of the lower. I look at our listeners every once in a while.
Producers.
And producers. Actually, I don't look at the listeners. I look at the producers because they're the only ones that show up on the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So the producers, we have a guy in Oman.
Mm-hmm.
We have guys everywhere. We have a lot of Saudis.
But I think even just to give people.
By the way, they're all in software. It's like
let's just give people some ammo. So I'll give you my takeaway from this election, what it means, and you give yours, and I'm sure I'll mess it up. You're much smarter than I am. You are when it comes to the civics.
What are you buttering me up for?
Because I just want to get my analysis out before you go. Bah! That's why. That's crap. It's come to this point in our relationship where I have to butter you up just so you won't interrupt me telling me I'm stupid.
Full of it.
I
don't care, Bull.
Kind of like that. What happened here? The way I see it is almost a replay of the 2016 election. Because you have to understand the difference between representatives in the House, which is based upon the population in your state. I think California alone has 54 of them, versus every state gets 2 senators, which, as you know, the Democrats and a lot of people on the left hate because Trump won, and the several presidents have won, the Electoral College, which is the only thing that counts according to our constitutional republic, the way the system works. And if you look at the amount of extra Senate seats, the states that they're in, along with the governorships, it bodes very well for the 2020 election because it looks like the majority of the country, not by people, but by states, really is bent towards the Republicans or Trump or whatever combination. And so it was net positive, I think, for the Republicans. And actually, I think the Democrats winning the House is net positive for the Republicans because they're morons. They can't do anything when they have all the power. They're just bumbling like the Keystone Cops. So who knows? Now
that you brought your little analysis into play, I have to play this little 59-second clip. And you see if you can pick up the little subtlety here. This, I believe, is a professor from Sonoma State. He's like a local news. This is a local news report. It's called the Local News Local Professor. This guy is not. You'll never hear him. He's got a little interesting take on the whole thing, and he does. I think his analysis would match up with yours, and I would agree with both. Your take is nothing to complain about. I don't know why you're so paranoid about it. But this is kind of the same thing. Only he kind of does it on the. He does it in an awkward. There's something in here that you will get a kick out of.
People trying to do here, I would have to say that they were trying to put a bit of a check on Trump. They were saying, even though we know that these people are crazy, we need them to sort of check this guy so he doesn't go too far. So that's going to block things. Now, Trump can advance on executive orders. He can advance on the court. He obviously can advance on foreign policy. The thing that worries me is this sort of investigative fight, because the Dems are very likely, their temptation is to go there. Mm-hmm. And if they go there, Trump has a secret weapon, but the secret weapon is his own Justice Department, which he has not controlled. That's the one department of the executive branch that Trump has not controlled since he took office.
Will he?
I think he can now. His big mistake was not to fire Comey and Rosenstein on day one, but he can fire them now, and it's the perfect time to do it. And I don't mean Rosenstein, but out goes Sessions and out goes Rosenstein. Okay. Trump takes over for the first time his Justice Department, and then if the Democrats open investigations, Trump has a tremendous amount of retaliatory firepower.
Oh, okay. Well, that happened. Good. That happened. that literally happened.
That was actually Denise D'Souza predicting the firing of Jeff Sessions.
Really? He nailed it. He nailed it.
But the thing that's funny in there was, this is not the clip I was hoping for, but the other clip was similar. This is actually better. But he just casually says, well, yeah, they put these Democrats in knowing they're crazy because just to put a little check on Trump.
Right.
I have to agree. The Democrats that they talk about pretty much are crazy. AOC is the worst case example. But that Muslim woman they elected in Minnesota, and she beat the other one by 50 points.
Wow.
She is a Jew hater. They dug up some old tweets by her from 2012 where she's just going off about
again, it's just all about hummus. I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, it could be. But she is – even the Jews know that the Muslims make better hummus.
Oh, there we go.
That's why if you go there, you'll be taken to a place that's run by Muslims. You're not going to go. No, nobody's making hummus as good as these guys.
Uncovered the Israeli lobby.
So the point is that there's a bunch of nutcases that are now in, and they're going to be kind of.
Probably.
Pelosi has to. I think Pelosi is my. Okay, you did your analysis.
Yes,
now I'm
please.
going to tell you what I think.
Go.
I agree with everything you say, except we have to take into account what's really going on with these nutty Democrats that they've elected. And I'm just going to say it. And it sounds partisan as somebody bitched about that, and this is the way it goes. I think these people are lunatics. I think AOC is a dummy. I think these other people aren't the brightest bulbs in the pack. And the fact that they won't mention young Kim is another example of what's wrong with everything. Pelosi has to become, and I think Trump knows this, has to become the speaker because she is, if you listen to some talk, especially around here where she's from, she is one tough cookie behind the scenes. She may be a bumbling fool in front of the cameras.
No, she even calls herself an expert negotiator.
She is a toughie. And she will put these people in line because these Democrats will get out of control so fast if they don't have a taskmaster who will go up to them. And she looks like a psycho to begin with and bug those psycho eyes at him and tell him to sit down and shut up. You just got here. You're not telling us what to do. And she's going to put them in their place and they're going to be fine. That's what I think already happened to AOC.
Yeah. Yeah, and she did, and you know what? I don't think AOC got a mention from her either. It was the Muslim ladies, and just mention of lots of women. But I don't even. It was like
AOC was not mentioned,
but not even by
AOC
Pelosi.
Has not been mentioned by anybody in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah. Oh man, bring her back. She's so much fun.
I think she's done.
She's so much fun.
She's done in terms of her profile.
All right. But I think I have a feeling Pelosi will try and get some stuff done, and she's going to be very surprised. I think that we will see some form of healthcare reform with pre-existing conditions. That's all they have to have in it. No one else gives a crap. It could be ripping us off as long as that's in it. Then,
no, they're ripping us off. Let's face it.
No kidding. Okay.
All right.
Oh, so that was that.
Well, there's more to talk about.
Oh, yes, but for now, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who put the C in Prop C, John C. Dvorak.
In the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry, and the morning to ships at the sea, and the beat in the ground, and the foot and the bang, and the bang, and the bang, and the bong.
Yes.
And all the games and nights out there.
And in the morning to the Troll Room. I love sounding the bat signal. I love when you all head off to the Troll Room and are here for us every Thursday and Sunday. NoAgendaStream.com. You can listen live. You can get in there, chat with everybody. Troll away. It's okay. Everyone else does it. And I also want to say in the morning to LAX, who brought us the artwork for episode 1083. Now, this is one that came in a show earlier. We liked it so much.
It was two
shows earlier. It went in the newsletter, and we just had to use it since we always like to pick art about something that was discussed in the show. And this was the Subway spoof of Cash Hoagie, the new Cash Hoagie, which is just a brilliant piece of art, one of the better ones. And we haven't heard from Lax in a long time.
No, he shows up rarely, but this piece was like
it was
when it came in. We had
We had something else and we knew. Well, we had something for the elections, and we knew we couldn't use that.
No, it was
art.
before that. It was something that was. It was. I think it was the 11th anniversary show, or it was something that we couldn't use it. I don't know the exact reason, but there was something we had to use instead, and we just were kicking ourselves because it would have been ideal, but it wasn't thematic, and I think it was the 11th anniversary, and. So we couldn't use it, and I said, "Well, we're going to."
That's right. It was the 11th anniversary. That's right.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work, and so we said, "Well, we'll put it aside." And then we weren't talking about Khashoggi enough to put it back up there, and I was bitching about that after the show, and because I kept wanting to use it, so I put it in the newsletter, so I make sure at least it gets used once. And then we had an opportunity to use it again because the last show, and I'll bring this up. After we do the show, we pick the art and do the titles and all the rest of it. Adam in particular was in a bad mood, foul.
When?
And he didn't like any of the art.
What do you mean I was in a what? Yeah. What?
There was some art I thought was
why
usable.
I wasn't in a foul mood.
Oh yeah. And so all the art was bad. And I mean, I thought it was good, but
You're
thought
fake
it was
news,
bad.
Dvorak. Fake news.
And so he said, and I was, oh God, we have to go to the Evergreen. So we go to the Evergreen page and look around, and then he just says, we got to use the Khashoggi thing now, and I agreed because it was okay. Enough praise. LAX should do art once in a while.
Hold on a second. I'm trying to climb out from under the bus here. One moment. Okay, I'm better now.
And the thing that was so great about it was using the no agenda thing and turning it into the subway.
Yeah, the subway logo. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
And the bones and the sandwich.
Well, thank you very much to LAX or LAX. Also part of our Value for Value network, our whole system. It's the way it works. You get recognition. There's even ways to make money with the noagendashop.com guys. But above all, just thank you for making us look good. Because when you fire up, your podcast player, you just go to iTunes, new and noteworthy. We look good. We don't look like your standard stupid ass cover, and it changes. So it's it catches people's eye. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com. Thanks again, LAX and everyone else who submitted artwork. We really appreciate it. And then we always like to thank our top donors, who are producers who get elevated to executive producer and associate executive producer in ranking for this episode 1084.
Yes, indeed. We have one executive producer today, Baron Oscar Nadal in Parma, Ohio, home of the Parma ham.
Ew. Yeah, right. Yes. Hello, Italy called.
Baron Oscar Nadal here. Can I get an F cancer for my dad who just got diagnosed with all the good vibes from our fellow producers?
Yes, of course. I hate cancer.
You've got karma.
Thank you, Baron. And also, another Baron came in, Baron Sir Craig in Norwalk, Connecticut, 23457 to be associate executive producer for show 1086. Is that what we had?
No, you said 1086 on the newsletter, which was very odd. I don't know how you jumped 2 shows ahead.
I know how I did it. I could just run that newsletter again next week.
That's right. No one will notice.
Baron Sir Craig here throwing, that's funny you mentioned that because not one person, usually there's always a stickler out there.
Oh, I saw it. And I thought to myself, damn it. John's got to send me the full thing before it happens.
I can't do that. Because it's being edited. I do a preview and I edit it make some last minute changes. And I do it like maybe 5 or 6 times. And I'm going to have to send it to you every time. Is that what you're asking for? You don't want it. You don't want it.
And I'm the one.
The number of mistakes I make like that, the 86 thing, is minor.
And I'm the one in the foul mood.
Well, you made me in a foul mood all of a sudden by your bad attitude.
Listen, Dvorak Acosta.
Baron Sir Craig here, throwing the extra penny in the extra penny for this. Thanks for the karma that is working. My birthday shout out is Friday, and I'm also retiring and moving to assume my barony of Northeast Georgia.
Oh, nice. Retirement party. Excellent.
Looking forward to having my sanity maintained with an umbrella drink in hand.
Yeah, we're jealous.
Jingles. Club 33 Raven. trains good, foamer, retirement goat karma. P.S. Dan Spencer still appears to be a douchebag.
Straight from Reseda, here she is, Raven. Give it up. All aboard, train's good, plane's bad. Woo-hoo. Oh my God! Woo! Listen to that horn!
You've got karma.
That was fun. Thank you, Baron Sir Craig. I like that little sequence.
You nailed it. Sean Connolly, Sir 10T in Naperville, Illinois, 23456, as opposed to 23457. Ex-VJ and former PC Magazine columnist. With this donation, I claim the title Duke.
Hey, hold on a second. Why am I ex and you're former?
Well, it actually reads better. You wouldn't have ex-VJ, ex.
How about former VJ and ex-PC? I think X just sounds so...
You don't like X? So you have something against the X-gens?
No. Just an observation.
Well, that's an interesting point. If it's a point of reference that we need to discuss.
Well,
former,
you immediately went snide on me.
He's my former husband, my former wife. She's my former wife. Okay, she's my ex-wife, or she's my former wife.
You never say my ex-job. You'll say my former job, my former position. It just sounds friendlier.
My ex-job.
Whereas I actually left.
Well, wait a minute. If you did that,
where I left. No, I left. I didn't get fired. I left.
You just gave yourself away.
In what way?
Because when you say ex-wife, that's very aggressive then, instead of saying my former wife.
That's probably... Do you say my former wife? See, I have to count. So I got to go. My first wife. You don't say former.
My first wife.
Yeah.
I don't even think I've said my ex-wife.
Yes, I think once.
Wife, I definitely haven't said my former.
No.
Former... Anyway, okay, we'll finish this conversation at a later date. And he continues, with this donation, I claim the title Duke.
Yay.
I'd like to thank you.
All right. You made it.
Yeah. It's so not easy. I would like to thank you for the sanity provided during our 11-year no agenda journey. Keeping my amygdala small has been invaluable to my quality of life. You know, the funny thing is, I bet it is. I bet it keeps you from getting a lot of headaches if the thing's getting bigger in there.
That's right.
And yes, I laugh at least once an episode.
Thank you. Turn away if you don't.
To those of you who haven't donated, reflect on the value for value that you have received. No agenda is not free. It is value for value. Jobs, not mobs. Value, not free. I would appreciate the Sharpton montage at the end of the show. In the morning, Sir 10T, newly minted Duke of the Federal Reserve District 7.
You know, I heard your interview with Grimerica, not to dwell on it, but, you know, these guys also have the value for value model. But I got to go on their show, and I've got to set them straight, because they're not doing it right.
Well, tell me.
Because they end the show, hey, it's value for value. All right, everybody. It's like, what? You can't just say it's value for value, send money. What was the value? You got to remind me. We just had John C. Dvorak on for an hour, you know, something like that. It's, you know, you've got to remind people of the value. You can't just say, remember, it's value for value, send money. It just doesn't work that way.
What you're telling them, if I'm to understand this correctly.
Yeah, because you talked about it.
There's no salesmanship here.
No, exactly. And it's not, I think it's, they just haven't thought it through yet. That is an essential part of how it works. I mean, you explained quite in detail how the model works, but I don't think they quite figured that part out.
I would recommend that I didn't think of this because I didn't listen to the end of the show because I was only there for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And they pieced it together after the fact, so I don't know what happened. Maybe they should listen to Jen Briney.
Well, she's doing pretty good.
I think Bryony does a good job of selling it.
Mm-hmm.
She gets and she starts whining about not getting enough money.
Yeah,
and how
that's
important.
it's all part of the human experience.
It's all the elements you need, but it's not like up tempo. Hey, it's just like it's serious. If you want, I said this before, and I think I mentioned it on that interview. Is that one of the things that we did from the beginning, once we decided that this is what we're going to do and not take advertising, was you have to take it pretty seriously.
Yes.
And when it's not working out, you haven't done this for a while, but you can really get worked up about it. You have to seriously say, hey, you didn't give us, this is not enough. This is no good. Maybe there's nobody listening. If that's the case, we'll go do something else. Right. I mean, you really can't just be, carefree. Let's put it that way.
And I think that they still have to get over the biggest hump, which on Twitter will be called begging.
Yeah.
But in our world, it's called selling it. It's like, hey, here's selling. You got to sell the idea. This is our concept. This is what we're doing. This is why
PBS does.
Well, PBS, they don't do that. They say, wouldn't you like to see more Yanni? No, I don't want to see Yanni.
No, PBS, the original concept of PBS worked quite well when it was really sponsored by the listeners, and churches do the same thing.
Yeah. But it feels strange. People have it's a hump. Yeah, Bryony's over the hump. She understands it. Yeah, it feels very weird. The first you're like, wow, I'm saying, hey, it's really valuable. Please send me money. It feels weird the first time you do it. Trust me, after 11 years. And you understand how the mechanism works, it's very satisfying. Because if people think it's shit, then they won't give you any money. The value for value, it works itself out automatically, but you do have to explain it. And I think you have to explain it a lot. So that's just a little tip.
I agree. If that's the way they're ending it, they have to fix that. Well, yeah, you should go on their show and then...
after Void Zero goes on.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Void Zero and Sir Bemrose.
Well,
and Void Zero was upset about that, and I apologize to him.
No, it's okay, but I mean, you missed the whole producer network part. I mean, it just didn't come up in the conversation because I noticed it.
Wasn't in the conversation.
I know. It's not your fault.
It's
not your fault.
But it's an origin story,
right?
How did I get into this? I don't know if I even mentioned Mevio. I should have.
Yes, you did. You did.
Yeah, because my talking
but
again,
about But again, instead of saying I scammed Adam and he gave me a job, you're like, well, and I became vice president over there or something. I'm like, no, you scammed me. I said, okay, I'm in, and then I made you vice president.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how it started.
That's how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Now, move on.
Let's
onward.
Mad about it.
No,
onward to Sir Richard Bangs in Washington, D.C., $200. I saw the Beagle, which was at the bottom of the newsletter, and I knew what to do.
Yes.
I just did the math, and my last donation actually put me at $3,000, and therefore I'm a baron. I like to be the Baron of D.C., if it's available. I believe so. I think it's available. I'm sure of it. If not, Baron of Chocolate City has a nice ring to it. Thank you for my sanity. As much as I love saying NJNK, I've got my third human resource on the way. And I've got a new house in D.C. that's
okay.
finished.
I feel it coming. Human resource, jobs, maybe house karma.
Stuck
got
in
it.
D.C.
I got you.
Be finished with the construction in 5 weeks. So I'll take karma for those. I'd also like new jobs karma. The top 5 software vendors I work for, the top 5 software vendor I work for is now in the process of management of all the reps so they can squeeze an extra nickel out of a dime.
He's in Dilbert land.
When you're 200% of quota year over year, it's time to move on. In other words, he's a sales guy.
Yeah. You see, this is how it works.
I just got a full list offer on our old house. Karma does work.
Outstanding.
Timing is good too.
Yes.
Thanks for everything.
Now, so he becomes a baron. We shall give him that title later on. Thank you very much, Sir Richard Banks.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Kyle Blank in Houston, Texas, $200 would be our last associate executive producer for show 1084.
That's funny.
This donation is a thank you from the No Agenda stock tip.
By the way, any stocks we talk about is not a recommendation
to buy
or anything.
Adam looked into Genie Energy, symbol GNE, and saw the strategic advisors are a who's list. Who's list.
Yes.
Woo. I put a little money in after the show about 9 months ago, and I'm up 45%, 14%.
Hey, now, nice.
Boy, at least he was thankful with a $200 donation and an associate executive producership.
Oh, that's so nice, Kyle. Thank you.
Yeah,
he is from Houston, of course, Oil Town. Genie Energy. Yeah, that's all the elite's Genie Energy. I do remember that. Well, good. Yes. It worked out. Long GNE. I can't believe someone made money off of our stupid discussions.
Well, they're not stupid.
Well, when it comes to stock stuff, it may not be as educated.
It's
on my part.
Inadvisable.
No, on my
part.
part.
Is the word you want to use.
But from a fundamental standpoint, yeah, I mean, I think we lined up the fundamentals for you. You saw it, you took action, and you made it.
Yeah, we should have both taken action.
Yeah, right. All right. Thank you very much, Kyle from Houston. Fantastic.
Okay. We have a short list today, and that was it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to our sole executive producer, Baron Oscar Nadal. Actually, we've got Barons galore. We have 2 Barons in our associate executive producerships, and we've got a Duke as associate. So it's all royalty in the top tier. Fantastic. You'll have a ceremony later on. Also, we will be thanking everybody else who came in over $50 and above in our second donation segment. And remember, we do have another show coming up on Sunday.
Dvorak.org/NA.
You definitely need to tell everyone about it. Propagate that formula.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth. Order.
Shut up, slave. Yay!
Shut up, slave.
So I just like to stick with where we left off before the break, kind of with the Iran sanctions. And because they are in effect now for 2 days. And I do have 2 clips. I think the first one is from RT. The second one is from Deutsche Welle. Yes, I had to go to different corners of the earth to go and find some information because, God forbid, our U.S. media talks about anything.
Russian officials recently announced that Moscow and Beijing are working on creating a cross-border payment system which will use their national currencies in bilateral trade with the goal of reducing dependence on the U.S. dollar. By bypassing the dollar, Russia and China avoid transfer fees and reduce their exposure to potential swings in the value of the U.S. currency. Both sides also pointed out that growing U.S. hostilities toward their respective countries made de-dollarization a task of utmost importance. Russia has also completed the infrastructure necessary to build a replacement for SWIFT, the Belgium-based financial messaging system used to carry out dollar-dominated transactions. The SWIFT alternative will allow for countries to more easily trade with Tehran. Iran has been mercilessly targeted by U.S. sanctions, which have inhibited the country's ability to make international payments. Russia's new SWIFT replacement, called SPFS, will be integrated with similar systems in China and Turkey.
Yeah, the SPFS. It's a competing system to SWIFT.
I just wanted to know what it was.
SPFS. We talked about it on Sunday. SPFS.
Yeah, I don't remember this.
Sierra, Papa, Foxtrot, Sierra. SPFS.
Sounds like that statistical package for the social sciences.
What I find interesting is I think it's a lie that Iran has been taken off the SWIFT payment messaging network. Otherwise, how could these other exceptions? The president talked about it. We heard earlier. There are some exceptions who are still allowed to buy oil, so they must be doing that through the SWIFT system. I doubt that what company was it? I think France still had a few. They're allowed to buy a little bit of oil from Iran. I doubt that this is not going through the SWIFT network. So somewhere someone's full of crap. Also, the SWIFT network is laughable because I really wanted to understand how it works. It's the worst. It's just a secure messaging system. And so if I'm transferring money to you, then let's just say you're in a different country. It doesn't really matter. still use the same system, then all that really goes to your bank is a message saying Adam sent $100 to your bank. What happens on the back end is more interesting, and this is why you have to be a member of the SWIFT system. Everyone has an account with everybody else. So what would actually take place is a few days later during some kind of settlement, even though you've received that money in your account, they actually transfer money from their account at whatever your bank is into your account at your bank. And if you were to send something to me, it would actually be your bank has an account with my bank, and they'd put something from their bank account into my account at my bank. It's a very, very antiquated system, especially if you look at what Bitcoin can do, as an example, which the Russians are talking about. They're talking about master chain, using that blockchain to replace SWIFT. And here's Deutsche Welle's report.
And Iran says that it is working with Europe to set up a mechanism to bypass those sanctions. Let's bring in Brussels correspondent Terry Schultz. Terry, could this actually happen?
The European Union maintains that it will happen. Just Friday, Federica Mogherini, EU foreign policy chief, and the governments of France, Germany, and the UK said that their resolve to both maintain the nuclear deal with Iran and to maintain economic support for European companies doing business in Iran is unwavering. So the European Union says it's setting up this so-called special purpose vehicle, which would allow payments to go in and out of Iran and bypassing U.S. sanctions. That's how it's envisioned. And the EU maintains that this is going to happen, although it's not operational today. At the same time, the U.S. has yet another lever, and that is to demand that SWIFT, that's the Belgium-based financial messaging service, which handles most of the world's interbank messaging. The U.S. says SWIFT has to cut off all the sanctions Iranian institutions. And so if that happens, it's hard to see how Iran could get around the sanctions, regardless of how creative they're being.
How about European companies themselves? Because we know that the United States has threatened them if they don't adhere to these sanctions. Are they likely to do so or not?
Yes, we have seen European companies pulling out of Iran, and that's despite the EU itself threatening sanctions on companies that pull out because of the U.S. sanctions. So these companies are really in a tough spot because both Brussels and Washington are saying they must obey. But what we have seen is an exodus of European companies, and some very big German companies among them, deciding that simply their bottom line cannot support being in a confrontation with Washington, and that whatever losses they have to take by cutting contracts in Iran and possibly annoying Brussels is going to be worth it.
So I don't think there's any de-dollarization taking place. I don't think that's going to go. That'll take a little while.
That story is so interesting. I just do not understand why the U.S. media doesn't even give it anything. It's just it's the young Kim.
It's the young Kim of stories. I know. I find it fascinating.
It's very important. It's an important thing to know about.
Well, particularly now, I did talk to the former New York banker about this. He said, "You remember when I told you we won?" And I think we talked about it on the show a couple of years ago. Yeah. We won. He says the European banks have lost. They cannot function without the U.S. dollar. It's impossible. They can't do anything without the U.S. dollar. And he says they're really, really, really in trouble now. And Italy talking about a Patriot bail-in where the government is now proposing in writing, well, 20% of whatever you have in the bank, and it'll get a bond for it, an IOU, and it'll be patriotic. Do it for Italy. And people are like, oh, yeah, good. Okay, Mario. That's really bizarre. I mean, their money's about to get stolen from them. As if they'd have an option to say, no, don't take my 20%. It's like what happened in Greece. So, yeah, I don't think that there's going to be a de-dollarization. But certainly it's risky to our entire business model of the United States, which changed in the 70s. Well, after it changed much earlier, taking us off the gold standard. But once we, well, that's not entirely true. Once we made the deal with the Saudis, which is why this is so interesting with Khashoggi and all this stuff that's circling around it. Once we made the deal with the Saudis, which is, okay, you sell as much oil as you want. You do whatever you want. Has to be in dollars. We'll protect your ass. That's always been the deal. It's very simple. But now it's, stuff's a little shaky. Things are different. And, again, I don't see the de-dollarization taking place any soon, but it certainly would start with oil purchases in a different currency. And the way to get there is start with some alternative messaging system, alternative to SWIFT. And
good luck.
Before you know it.
You know that our people are over there, especially probably at NSA, are working on ways to crack any possible system these guys come up with. I'm actually surprised
but it's not, but John,
it's not, hasn't been cracked.
Well, this is, I think what we're actually seeing with some interesting spikes, I think they're using the blockchain, but Bitcoin, I think, is being used for some transactions, oil transactions as we speak. And it makes nothing but sense. You get your guaranteed proof that this is, this is sent from here to there.
I understand.
But I'm just saying you circumvent the whole, you need a bank account at my bank thing. All of that goes away.
Well, this is a story that needs to be discussed. It's now your beat.
Yes, well, I've been beating this for a while.
You've been beating your head against the wall.
You finally perked up. I'm so happy to have you here.
Okay.
Well,
that reminds me. I'll read a couple of notes. I need some letters to be read.
Okay.
Because they're bitching about me. This guy bitching about me.
Who's bitching about you? I'll mess him up.
This is one of our sirs. I won't mention his name except Matt. Sir Matt. No Agenda is the most valuable content media out there. I have always struggled with you and Adam's general rudeness. Though I imagine most of your audience finds it humorous and or entertaining.
Does he have an example of our said rudeness?
Well, it's all the time. But please try and stop being so rude to Adam about his segment content, length, etc. Just because this material is boring or already known to you, the way he wrote it is boring, which is probably what the thing, but he actually means boring to me. Or already known to, so I'll give him credit for that. Or already known to you doesn't mean it's familiar to us in the audience. The bickering makes the show awful to listen to. Keep up the good work.
All right.
I don't quite get the keep up the good work part. I got another one. Now, by the way, somebody pointed out the psychology of letters on this show and everywhere else. If you start reading letters like that, you'll get more letters like that.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So I don't want to read a lot of letters like that, but I do want to read this one because this is a Dimension B person, and I'm actually irked by this letter. And I now read some good letters because I got actually really good letters. I keep my subscription. This is a woman. I keep my subscription to your newsletter so that I can monitor. I might try to do an accurate voice.
She's monitoring.
I keep my subscription to your newsletter so that I can monitor whether the show ever goes back to being less partisan and less about politics. There's a lot more going on in the world. After I'm reading this, after you did your report on the oil and the Iranian thing.
Yes, I know.
There's a lot more going on in the world besides Trump and anti-Trump. I used to be able to hear about it by listening to the No Agenda. Now it's only the BBC that talks about more than Trump. There's a kind of a double entendre in there. And how much he hates the Democrats. You guys have gone over to the dark side with your Alex Jones conspiracies, Sandy Hook, and what appears to be your blind devotion to DJT.
Yes.
I remember when JCD would chastise Adam for repeating stuff he read on InfoWars website or Prison Planet. When was this?
I don't know. I don't know. When she was monitoring.
I don't remember you being a big fan of Prison Planet.
No, I really don't know what she's talking about.
I don't either. And that, I mean, I don't mind jumping on Adam for something, but
John, there's clearly what's going on here is Orange Man bad. That's what's going on.
Your out of mainstream perspective used to be unique and well considered. Now the show sounds like a cross between Fox News and Alex Jones.
Oh, my. They're turning the frogs gay!
I know you don't care what I think. And then she goes on with some issues she had with her spinal cord. And so she's never been a producer. She's I've never been a producer. Okay, well.
Oh, okay. She doesn't get value.
Well, yeah, she doesn't.
Right. Well,
she probably never did. I really did find you guys to be entertaining and insightful for a very long time. I really miss you guys, which is why I continue to subscribe to the newsletter in the hopes that this partisan outlook on life that you've acquired will come back to some kind of equilibrium with reality at some point. I'll continue to monitor and hope.
I like the idea of monitoring.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on us.
I think I have to do something as a public service because there's a lot of confusion, and I wouldn't mind clearing it up.
There you go.
And it's something that only we can do. Now, I could do this myself in 5 minutes, but I feel if I do it with you, it'll take a little longer, but it'll be much more entertaining, and you'll be able to fill in some of the blanks when it comes to the actual history of podcasting. Are you interested in this one?
Well, first, let me preface it by saying that I believe that this came up on a recent show by the guy who's been accused of being an alien.
Well, this is Joe Rogan's show, and the reason I'm doing this is twofold. One, because they didn't know, and of course, here's four guys who first they drink whiskey, then they're drinking Red Bull, then they're drinking beer, then they're smoking a blunt. I don't know if I could tell the story.
It's a 4-hour show they did.
It's a very long show, this particular one. But they were trying to figure out some of the genesis of podcasting, and I'll just play a little bit of, because it was, like 5 minutes, but I'll just play a bit of it.
Yeah. Well, who was the first ever?
Ricky Gervais.
Is the first at what?
Is that true?
Ricky Gervais.
First
Corolla
what?
got into the mainstream.
But what about the guy from Adam Curry?
The Podfather.
Was he the first?
Yeah, but what
Keith
has
and
happened
the girl
is,
was doing it for a while before
They've been doing it a long
started.
time.
Keith and the girl was a long time.
Damn, we should probably establish who was first, right? Like George Washington was the first president. We're all professional comedians. Most professional politicians would be able to tell you who the first fucking president was.
See, I really like that he said this because now he elevated me from podcaster to comedian. I did feel kind of good about that.
No idea.
We're like, who's the first podcaster?
We really don't know, right?
Dude, I heard
there was internet radio. There was internet radio, and then it just became podcasting.
Who was first between you and Marin?
Him, for sure.
Marin, for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I'm asking.
Now you know. Well, now you know. Why don't you stop arguing?
Here's what I think. I think that Adam Curry was number one.
Who's Curry?
Adam Curry is an
right?
ex-VJ from MTV.
Yeah.
And he is known as the Podfather, the guy that started podcasting.
I think he's
Ricky
number
Gervais
one.
has the first recognizable
model.
one.
I don't
Adrian
know
Curry?
his relationship history, but I think he's the George Washington.
There you go. Adam
Curry. I think he is.
See, and that's enough of it. That to me is a great comparison because it's like who invented podcasting. It's like who invented America. I'll just put it on that scale.
Who invented America? It should be Thomas Jefferson.
Well, but you see, George Washington was the first president, and he's recognized as the first guy. But there's a lot of evolution that came before that, which I'd like to do that for podcasting, just so people understand for once and for all.
No.
What?
They're not going to understand for once and for all. These other guys come on these podcasts, and they don't know what they're talking about. They're throwing out Adam Carolla and Ricky Gervais is the first guy. I mean, where did that even come from? I've heard other things. I mean, it's just going to get worse and worse. We didn't get nominated for an iHeart Award of any sort. They don't know who we are. They don't care. We have a huge audience. We have a successful podcast that's been going on 11 years. We're
snubbed. Well, I'm not saying, look, that's their show. And to be honest, I had to smoke a little weed to really get into it. But then I was really into it, and I watched quite a bit of it. But that's just their show. They don't know. But Rogan's correct. it's a disgrace that they're one of the most successful podcasts and they don't know the origin. So he's right. That's disgraceful. More disgraceful was not even knowing who you are.
That he does the podcast with. There's another guy who's like a science tech guy.
Some guy named like
Dvorak.
Bob Doyle. Sorry, I had it
Bob Doyle.
Bob Doyle.
Bob Doyle. Now the funny thing is, Rogan and I have communicated, and he follows me on Twitter.
Bob Doyle.
I think this is what would you call it when you get back at somebody for calling them a lizard or an alien?
I think when we called Rogan an alien, you became Bob Doyle.
Yeah. I didn't call him an alien. It was Alex Jones who called him an alien.
Exactly. Okay. So I want to run through the history, and then we'll be talking about some technology stuff. But this will be the ultimate. We'll be done with it, and we'll never have to explain it again. What is
put money on that?
Well, I'm not going. How about this? I won't explain it again, and people can cut this out, and this will be from my experience. All right, we're 1999, 2000. This is how far back this really goes. I just moved back from New Jersey to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands, Amsterdam in particular, had cable modems because the Netherlands is 90% of all maybe even more, 98% of all scientists and households have cable. So cable modems came along very quickly, and they weren't blazingly fast. It was like maybe 128 kilobits or maybe 250 if you were lucky. But it was being sold as not as broadband. It was being sold as always on. So you did not have to dial in with your modem. And, so there was multimedia stuff on the web, but there was no experience. It didn't matter what. I mean, the MP3 was just coming along. We had, like the Rio and stupid MP3 players that were really quite antiquated compared to what you see today. So, broadcasting or streaming or anything like that it just wasn't possible. There was no way you could do it. There were no services at the time. I don't think real audio had actually come out yet at that point. Maybe it had. In 1990, though, just as an aside, I did broadcast the Mega Music Dance Experience from the Jaarbeurs in Utrecht, which was a huge dance party on the M-Bone, if you remember that. Remember the M-Bone?
Yeah.
You walked away. You walked away from my story. I need you for color. Come back.
Okay. I remember the M-Bone. I remember what was that crazy network that guy did, that one character that had there was a bunch of crazy stuff that was going on during this era.
Yeah, the M-Bone was amazing. It only worked, you could only really see it if you were at a university, but it was multicast. And so it was the exact opposite of the problem that we have, which is the more people who watch or listen, the more bandwidth it eats. And this was kind of like a chained multicast thing. Anyway, I digress. At the same time, Napster came out.
Real Audio was initial releases April 95.
So it was before that even. But I remember encoding took forever and there was no experience. So then Napster happened, and I remember opening up my Napster client, and what was so mind-blowing about this is you could see, this is some guy's computer, and you could, there was, if you just were searching for a song, it might show up, and you could explore his computer, and you could start up these downloads. And, you might have 10, 12 downloads going. It would take a long time because of, no bandwidth. But it was always on, and the phone line wasn't tied up. And I was like, wow, this is, what if I made the experience by changing the thinking? In other words, your computer's on the whole time. There's something you want it when it's new. Let's say a new song. That's how I was thinking at the time. But your computer had initiated a download, but didn't tell you it was available until it actually had downloaded onto the computer, and would pop up a message and say, hey, I got something new. You click on it, it plays immediately. Great experience. So really unattended, your computer should be doing this in the background. And I wrote an essay about it called The Last Yard. You could probably find it. Now, at the same time, so I had this in my head. I'm like, broadcasting. How do I broadcast? How do I use? How can I do this? And I was like, I knew that there had to be a way, just like the news broadcast, You have no idea how long it takes for people to put the news together and make that hour-long show. There's pre-produced packages. But when it's time, all of that just flows out to you. So it's kind of the same idea of have everything happen out of sight of the user. And at the time, Dave Weiner had just become pretty well known with RSS, and he was doing his blogging software. You can read at Weiner at scripting.com. And I went to New York because I felt like I could somehow work with him to use RSS. I wasn't quite sure, really. And we met in a hotel room. I don't remember why he was there. I know I went specifically, this is 4/9/11, I went specifically to meet with him about it. And I explained it, and he really brushed me off. He was like, all right, like Hollywood guy, MTV guy, shut up.
Hair.
Yeah. Guys who are bald really don't take to me right off the bat.
For good reason.
Yeah. So hair. And then I came back the next day, and I actually had some of his software, and I tried to program what I meant in his software, and after another 45 minutes, he says, "I get it. You are forbidden from ever using my software again." That was horrible. So okay, I don't mind. And so he came up with the enclosure element in RSS. And for several years, because he had his little Radio Userland was his aggregator and blog publishing software. We were just sending like 100 megabyte video files back and forth, and it would show up on my computer after it had downloaded, and I clicked it and had a great experience. So it was exactly what I envisioned, and nothing happened with it until the iPod. I saw the iPod, and I went, holy crap, this is not a jukebox. This is a radio receiver. We need to be able to put radio shows on this iPod. And I started making, with an Apple script, a little parser that would go look, and was just for one feed. It would go look at an RSS feed. Is there a new item? Yes. Download it. Download the MP3 file in this case. Then when it's downloaded, and at the time you had your iPod was you could only put stuff on it by syncing up to your computer. So the Apple script would then trip the syncing of the iPod, and so this all happened while you didn't know it, because this was it was polling on a recurring basis. And the experience was you picked up your iPod, there was a new radio show. I said, holy shit, this is it. And I immediately started the Daily Source Code. The Daily Source Code, my idea was to bring serialized radio content every single day. And I called it Source Code because we needed receivers. We needed the reception side. So if you remember the pod catchers, they might have been called. And all of a sudden, guys started showing up who were doing applications, again, just podcast apps called iPodder, iPodder Lemon, iPodder X. There was a whole bunch of different things that were happening. It was going very, very quickly. Then I met Kevin Marks. I want to include him. Kevin Marks, who I think now works for Google. He worked for Apple. And I was having some issue with we learned a lot about how a podcast app works. I was having an issue, and he actually sent back a much better functioning version of this Apple script. So he has an important part in the story, because that really tripped off all of this development and me doing the Daily Source Code. And I called it Source Code because my only audience at that time was dudes named Ben, and it was dudes at the time, who were building this receiving podcast software. So I would talk.
Same audiences today.
It's basically, and some of the same people. And so at this time, and I do want to say that Dave Weiner, I think with Chris Lydon, have done a couple of interviews, and they put that on the RSS feed. So was that a podcast? I don't know. Was the M-Bone a podcast? It's irrelevant. The idea that I propagated was you can make radio this way, and it's different because the radio show comes to you. It's listening by appointment. The idea of show notes, which we still call show notes, completely ideated from the Daily Source Code. And I also started the directory. It was called the iPodder directory. And how that worked is a whole nother story. But I had the definitive directory of all podcasts by country, by we had it. You could break it out any way you want. It was kind of like a distributed database. And then some guy came into the mix. His name is Danny Gregoire, and Danny Gregoire coined the term podcast. And because we were calling it soliloquies, all kinds of stupid things. But he showed up in a comment somewhere. I like this podcast. And so to me, even though, yes, Ben Hammersley had used that word years before there was anything really, Danny Gregoire is the guy who used it in context. So they have the directory. We have all of this working. And then I get a call around 2004, 4 or 5. Hi, it's Eddie Q from Apple. Steve Jobs wants to meet with you. Are you interested? Let me check my calendar. So I met him at All Things D, which is outside of Quincy Jones, one of the most interesting meetings I've ever had. And he was angry and, to the point where, not about me, he was angry about, they fucked up Wi-Fi. This is not how I wanted it to be. He was just angry and he was yelling. But then we had an hour. And I thought, actually, man, you get sick if you're so mad like that. And we sat for an hour just chit-chatting about stuff and how, the RIAA was all on his ass to shut down recorders that can record songs internally on the computer, and so they've been kind of saying they would, and they just weren't going to do it. And it was like, wow, it's very interesting. And he said, Adam, I want to put podcasting in iTunes. Is that okay? I said, yeah, that's fantastic. And I'll give you my directory. Now, he already had it all because he went right on stage a couple hours later, demoed podcasting in iOS or in the Mac, which is a very funny video. Go look at that on the YouTube. So he already had that already. He knew exactly what he was doing. And then came kind of the disappointment because after, now podcasting launched. It's like, holy crap, we were in iTunes, we're on the iPod. And what Apple did is went straight into putting NPR bullshit everywhere. Of course, NPR was very instrumental. I want to say WGBH in Boston was the first NPR station to do anything independently. They were doing podcasts. But Apple became this directory that sounded just like everything else on the radio, which was exactly the wrong thing. That's the part that Steve Jobs didn't get. Because when you hear some of these different voices that is not as polished or differently polished than the radio, it's exciting. I think a lot of people went and like, okay, that's great. I can listen to NPR. All right, great, Steve Jobs. Thank you very much. I think a lot of people missed out on what was really happening. And then there's a whole story about why podcasting fell off the radar for 10 years, which has to do with the rise of social media and YouTube, etc. But that, to the best of my recollection, is how podcasting came to be.
We should clip that whole thing.
Yeah, it's. I think it's
put
pretty
it out as a separate little podcast.
Yeah, we'll put it on the M-Bone.
Well, actually, what we'll do is a history of podcasting. I'll do an interview with you.
I feel a giblet coming.
Well,
yeah, I think there's a giblet.
We'll take a transcript of what you just said. We'll add some more stuff to it, make it into a giblet, and we'll also do it as clip that out and make a podcast that stands alone. A standalone podcast that says, as its name, the history of podcasting.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It's a very good idea. And that will take once and for all. So if you go to Google and you go history of podcasting, this thing is going to be on the first page somewhere. And then there's the book.
Is it a full-on book? Or there's only 8 million books of how podcasts.
No, it's going to be a giblet. It's going to be a small, short little thing. It's not going to be a long, boring book going back to 1927. It's going to be just about what you said, pretty much, and how it kind of came about and how it got named and how it got where it got and why it's just not doing what you'd hoped it had done, except in a very few instances, which are all very successful.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if we did a full-on, I mean, we'd have to talk about Mevio.
We'll co-author it. We'll co-author it, Adam Curry and Bob Doyle.
George Washington and Bob Doyle. Oh, man. Anyway, so that kind of sets it straight, I think. But I'd love to do that. Let that be a project. That's our exit strategy right there.
Another project is in the can.
Yes.
Well, we got a couple of things here because that woman moans about us. I have 2 clips. Mm-hmm. We're done with the podcasting story.
Oh, yes. We're almost into our break. That's how done we are with the podcasting story.
Well, let's play a couple of humorous clips then.
Yes, let's do that.
Now, you heard the promises clip from Trump, I hope.
The promises clip.
Well, you don't know. You may not have heard this. This is Trump and his promises. Play it.
It's all happening faster than anybody could believe. Even one of them recently said that President Trump made promises, but he's kept many more promises. I mean, far more than I made. Think of
it. That's right. That's because of his really big brain. It houses more promises than he makes. The guy is amazing. Amazing. Just amazing, I tell you.
The only president I know that have fulfilled more promises than he actually made. Unbelievable. How do you do that?
That's our president.
Yeah, it's our president.
That's our president. That's our president, ladies and gentlemen.
And then we have Joy Behar and her stupid gerrymandering comment right in the middle of some guy. Gerrymandering clip Behar.
Won the popular vote last night by 8 million votes, right? They lose, but they lose U.S. Senate races in red areas
because of gerrymandering.
Well, that's not gerrymandering. That's the Constitution. I mean, you can't. The districts are gerrymandered, but the states are part of the Constitution.
Okay.
And I think
you got to explain this to people who don't know our system.
There's a thing called gerrymandering, which is where you take a state, you take all the electoral districts for the various representatives, state senators, assemblymen, and when you're in power, you move the boundaries of these things so it favors your guy. So you move. Well, let's just right now we're in these 3 towns. Let's put this 4th town in and take this 1 town out and put them in a different district.
Now this happens. How does redistricting take place? Is that based upon the census?
The census is a huge part of it, but it's done on a state by state level, and it happens constantly and usually under different excuses. And it's a common thing. It's ridiculous in some areas where you have districts that aren't even connected. They're just little
It's insane
neighborhoods that all vote Democrats.
And where does the term gerrymandering come from?
Well, you're going to have to make me look up the book of knowledge.
Well,
knowledge.
As long as I make you do that, let's play the jingle.
Consult the book of knowledge.
Was there a guy named Jerry Mander?
There actually was a PR guy for years called Jerry Manders. Gerrymandering is a practice of The word is also a verb for a process. History. Difference from
origins.
Etymology. The word gerrymander, originally written Jerry, G-R-Y -mander, was used for the first time in the Boston Gazette in 1812. It was credited in reaction to the redrawing of Massachusetts state Senate election districts under Governor Elbridge Gerry. So it's named after a governor of Massachusetts.
And was he a Democrat?
Yep.
So
anyway, mapped and goes on.
Right. So Joy Behar says, well, they gerrymandered, they rigged the Senate race.
Yeah, which of course is laughable because the Senate race is statewide.
Yeah, and you only get 2.
And it's just the state vote from. It's not possible. I mean, it's so dumb. It's like ludicrous.
The guy is even kind of zips her just a little bit. Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, no, not like that. It's in the Constitution, but okay.
I think he should have said, yeah, Joy, whatever.
Dogs are people, too.
That's right, everybody. Dogs are people, too. They are more people than I care to admit. Man, there's so many dogs in this building.
You hate dogs?
No, I don't, but I hate dog owners. I really do. I mean, the dogs walk out the front door of the building. The little dogs, they can't hold it. They squat immediately in front of the door. Psst. So, you know how many times I've almost slipped and fallen coming home?
Oh, God, you're kidding me.
No, it's that bad.
Ah.
No, it's not very pleasant. And it smells.
Pick up the poop, find out who the owner is, and smear it on their door handle.
Well, dogs are sometimes even above humans.
Matthew Meehan is from Michigan, but now lives in Florida, and he says he was disgusted not long after boarding a flight from Atlanta to Miami.
and it was everywhere. It was on my seat, it was on the floor, my feet were in it.
Meehan says he jumped up and asked the flight crew for help.
This is all I was given, 2 paper towels and a bottle, one of those little bottles of Bombay Sapphire. I was in the bathroom cleaning feces off of the back of my legs.
And Meehan says he was stunned when he got off the plane to speak to a manager.
She said, well, that's not my problem. I said, I'm sorry. She says, well, if the cleaning crew didn't clean your seat, I don't have any control over that.
The feces were from someone's service dog that became ill on the plane earlier. Meehan says because some passengers refused to sit down until it was cleaned up, someone simply used some paper towels, and passengers then laid down blankets, but they still had to endure the smell.
It filled the entire plastic bag, paper towels full of feces, and they wanted me to sit in that.
A spokesperson for Delta apologized to some of the customers on the flight and offered a refund and additional compensation, adding that Delta will conduct a full investigation to prevent this from happening again.
Oh, yes, we need Professor Dookie on the scene. That's we need the poop police. I forgot all about that. Ah, damn. I should have had that queued up. Anyway, poop police. It's pretty egregious.
Poop police.
No, I'm not going to play it. It's too late. It's lost its mojo. It's lost its mojo. It's lost the mojo.
Talking about that, when you were talking about the history of podcasting, just as an aside, I'm reading Dave Weiner's post in 2000. He says, if you multiply the number of bits per second times the number of seconds you're not using, your line can get a lot of bits down the pipe. And that, both Adam and I believe, is the secret to turning the internet into a super satisfying broadband experience. A little software saw some new protocols, maybe not very new, and we're there. Adam has written more about this idea on his website, adamcurry.editthispaper.com, broadband, dead link.
Oh, yeah.
That's the internet, by the way, in a nutshell.
If anyone can find this article called The Last Yard, or I think it's called The Last Yard, send me a link because, it's been very hard to find this link. A lot of dead links to it. That's the internet. Everything's saved in perpetuity, except the shit you actually want to keep is never. Yeah,
dead link.
All right, give us one more, John. Give us another fun clip here.
Well, I do have. I don't want to go right back into the initiatives, but here's the thing on the state initiatives, which I do want to discuss a little bit. Initiatives in the states talked about on CBS.
Okay.
A number of key ballot initiatives were decided last night. Michigan became the first Midwestern state to legalize recreational marijuana. Missouri and Utah legalized medical marijuana. 3 Republican states, Utah, Nebraska, and Idaho, voted to expand Medicaid, which could cover an additional 325,000 low-income Americans. And Florida restored voting rights to nearly 1.5 million former felons, as long as they were not convicted of sex crimes or murder.
I thought that was actually. I'm actually for that.
Yeah, I think if you've paid your dues, and I think you should then also be, if you're going to let people vote, then you should also let them have a firearm.
Now, a couple of things. We did have these initiatives here. We had Proposition C, which is being sued over. It's where Mark Benioff decided as a
this is the raise money. The rich people of San Francisco are going to save the homeless.
Yeah, of course. I actually have to say Scott Adams had the best commentary about this when he said, it's not money, it's ideas that are the shortage problem.
Yes, I agree.
Because they throw money, already throw $300 million at the homeless problem in San Francisco. It's done nothing. Now they're going to double it, thanks to marketing. They're going to jack up all these guys.
It's just rich people virtue signaling amongst themselves.
Getting nothing accomplished.
Wasting money. It'll all go to people who consider these the homeless as their clients. It never works. It's like Austin.
Meanwhile, the 2 propositions I liked.
Repeal the gas tax.
Repeal the gas tax was missold to the public by putting a lot of money behind it because everybody knew, all the contractors knew it was just going to be free money. And God, we got to steal more money from the public in California. So Proposition 6 was voted down, even though it was misleading. the way it was presented in the sample ballot. And they had to change it, but they got sued over that, and they had to change it, but nobody got to change. The other one was Proposition 10, which I thought was, this to me, this was rent control. This reminded me of the Californians not voting marijuana in before Colorado did, like 2 years earlier, and they just voted no for legalizing marijuana. And why would the Californians do this? Because they're stupid. And in fact, this rent control thing really wasn't changing rent control. It was taking it out of the hands of the state and giving it to the locals who could put rent control in certain cities where it might actually be needed and it might actually be useful. But because the huge real estate investment trusts and all the big giant real estate companies that would expect to overbuild in California, these tall buildings and apartments and everything else, know it's a detriment to have rent control local, because then it could be, in San Francisco, for example, they could put rent control in and you won't make all this killer money from building these high rises. You just won't make any money because there is going to be this fear that they're going to freeze rents and that the property is not going to be as valuable as a resale item. And they threw a ton of money at this, including some woman.
So it didn't pass, I take it.
Yes, it got voted out too.
Yeah.
But this is because the Californians are
dumb. You're stupid.
They're dumb.
You're dumb.
I think they are. They are dumb. And I'm born and raised here.
And what are you doing there?
It's too stupid to leave, apparently.
No, I mean, I love you and all, but let's see. Dan found. Someone found it.
Found what? They found your essay?
My last yard essay. Yes.
Yeah, well, good. We'll put it on hook it to curry.com.
Yeah, you better believe I will. That's cool, Dan. Thank you very much. Yeah,
send me a copy.
They're just as stupid here in Austin. Of course, it's really Californians here, as we know. By the way, my guy, build a dome around Austin, give the cops flamethrowers, did get almost 3,000 votes.
Well, I'm surprised you got that many in that area. At least you got 3,000 people you know for a fact have a sense of humor.
Exactly. Someone's laughing out there. Yes. All right. Different election, and then we'll go to our second break. This is a very important election. It's either single candidate or a single winner, just one category, and it happens in the EU. It is the EU Word of the Year, which is a little early, I think, but are you familiar with the EU Word of the Year?
Imprisonment.
Britain's Collins Dictionary has chosen single use as its 2018 Word of the Year.
I love that 2 words hyphenated as Word of the Year.
It marks a rising awareness of the pollution problem in the world's oceans. The EU is planning to ban some throwaway plastics like straws and cutlery. The ban could come into effect by 2021.
We still haven't...
Can I comment on this?
Yes.
When I went to the Soviet Union. Not Russia, Soviet Union.
Yes, around the same time I did, late 80s. Yeah.
So I took Aeroflot.
Yes.
And people warned me about Aeroflot. And one of the things they told me is that the first thing you're going to notice, besides the fact
there's holes in the floor.
No. The first the plane was too big for that.
Oh.
It was that besides the fact that the stewardesses are all dolled up to an extreme. Which was like kind of eye-popping, is that all of the plastic cups that they poured, because they poured from big bottles into plastic cups for whatever you wanted, juice, water, orange juice, apple juice, that they recycled them. They washed them.
The plastic cups, sure.
And so every plastic cup looked like it had been washed about 100 times. It was all beat up. This stuff is not necessarily single use if you don't want it to be.
Very good point, John C. Dvorak, once again. But something else is going on, John. It's part of Agenda 2030, whatever it is. It started with the damn turtle with
your favorite,
with what did he have, the toothbrush in his nose?
No, it's his straw.
The straw up his nose. Now they're showing baby turtles floating in plastic.
Turtle.
But there's something up with this. And they want to get rid of plastic cutlery. This is ban plastics, I guess. I don't know. Someone must have an alternative that is doing well for them with the removal of all the luxuries of modern life. But we haven't figured it out yet. Well, we don't know what it is yet.
Well, it's got to be probably right in front of us.
Well, and then because of all the things, of all the words used during the year in the European Union, single use, sincerely, that was not the word of. First of all, it's 2 words hyphenated. It's a PR campaign. That's not. No one's using. Oh, hello, neighbor. Hello, Amsterdam neighbor. Single use. Yep, I got my single use. Come on. They're promoting something.
You're asking the wrong guy.
I'm not asking. Idea. I'm just wondering if you. What is the alternative to plastic? There's got to be some alternative to plastic bags.
Glass.
It's bags and it's cutlery. I don't know.
Well, the plastic. There's too much plastic. I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to take the other side saying it's bad. That we're kind of trying to cut back on it. But the worst thing is these little plastic drinking bottles with water in them. I mean, those things are
yeah, I know those horrible. Are bad. Yeah. Before you know, we'll have single-use condoms. I mean, where's the world coming to?
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab.
Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
Without comment, $161.80 from
hey, Sir Cal.
Sir Cal and the Lavender Blossoms, who's really doing a great job with his product. But he does. This has been an exciting week. I can't wait to hear what you got for us. Happy birthday, Mimi, Sir Cal and the Lavender Blossoms team, one of whom is a douchebag. His name is Drew. Douchebag. Okay. Well, there you go.
It's always nice when you work with Cal and the gang.
Yeah, he's going to call you out.
Douched. Yeah, nice.
Bitbox 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Sir Jonathan of the double-bladed paddle. That's what it says.
Kilo Echo 0 India Hotel Tango 73s.
73s. $116.18 from Maplewood, Missouri. Hocus Locus $100.38. He's complaining about the PayPal form, which everybody complains about.
He said, not enough characters allowed in the PayPal form to make a decent comment. That is my comment.
Amanda Copeland, Seattle, Washington, $100. Mike M. in Richmond, Virginia, $100. First-time donor in need of a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
We get some jobs karma at the end of the list, and he'd like to call out my homeboy, Troy B. in Westminster, Colorado, as a huge douchebag for not donating. And he never admits to dyeing his hair. A little extra in there. John D. Carney in Alpharetta, Georgia, 8008, boob. Sir Herb Lamb, 8008, boob. Sir Got Nate in Sebastopol, California, 6969. Sir Brian Pearson, 6666. Brian Wiffles in Genesco.
Genesco. Hold on a second, John. Hold on 1 second. Sir Brian Pearson says he'd like to donate the title of Dame to his smoking hot wife. She'll be known as Dame Emily of Eastern Oregon. Let me just make sure she's on the list because it's not highlighted. Let me just check. Yes, she's on the list. Okay, good. So he is foregoing his upgraded title to a damehood for his mate, which is very nice.
It's very touching.
Yes.
Brian Wiffles from Geneseo, Illinois, on his way to knighthood. Michael Ragusa in Tustin, California. His name is pronounced like Vegas. Vegas.
Whatever.
I don't get it.
I don't know.
Vegas, Ragus, I guess, in Tustin. Paul Webb in Twickenham, Middlesex, UK. 5555. By the way, Michael was 5555 from Tustin. Abraham Daly, 5555 in Raymond, Maine. Rich Malloy in Greenwich, Connecticut, 5555. Sir Tom Darry in DeForest, Wisconsin, 5510. Spencer Whitney, 5440. 5440 or fight. You're on the birthday list. Aaron Lambert in Tumwater, Washington, 5433. Michael Gates, 5280. We got some jobs karma for Aaron at the end. Charles Couch, 50. These are all $50 donors, name and location if applicable. Charles Couch, Sir Craic, Craic. He's now based in Russia. It was in Ireland, apparently, before that. So give us a report. Tony Smith in Fort Worth, Texas. Larry Hay in Mooresville, North Carolina. Todd Moore in Arlington, Virginia. Troy Funk in Leander, Texas. Alan D. Peterson. John Pribas in Washington, D.C. or Washington. Robert Marsh, parts unknown. He also wants some jobs. Carmen will give you that at the end. Eric Ilan in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Thank you for the sanity. Victor Munoz in Miami, Florida. Andrew Martin in Sydney, Australia. Anthony Salmons in Augusta, Georgia. Heather Rodriguez in Stockton, California. A lot of 50s today. Joseph Pumphrey in Brandon, Mississippi. Jonathan Meyer in Xenia, Ohio. Edward Mazurek in Memphis, Tennessee. Sir Jason DeLuzio in Chatsford, Pennsylvania. And last but not least, our friend and follower and common donor, Baron Mark Tanner in Whittier, California.
He's got to be close to Duke somewhere, man. The guy's been around for a long time.
He's something.
Yeah,
he's more
sure.
than he's a baron. And, Duke is just maybe. Yeah, he should be Duke by now.
Well, if you're wondering what all this is about, this is a big part of our value for value system, where you can be recognized by the community, and we do it with the peerage system, which has been around since written history almost. Well, our system has been around since the medieval times, I guess.
Yes, we've adopted the British version.
Yes, since we kicked their ass a while ago.
Yeah, we stole it.
We stole it. We feel this pretty good. But really, thank you all so much for this. Also, people who came in under $50, which is typically for reasons of anonymity. But we also have a number of subscriptions that you can help us out with, and they really do make a difference on a sustaining basis. Gives us a little bit of an even keel there, because it does. The roller coaster ride is real. So consider that, and you can do that at
Dvorak.org/NA.
Got an emergency night karma request from Scott Fuller. Dad just started chemo on Monday. So much cancer. Sick of it. He thought he had cancer beat and was managing it. Turns out it spread elsewhere. At this point, he's just trying to manage pain. F cancer karma needed. Of course, we'll do that. And there were a couple other requests for that here as well. And all the other karma you guys need.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And today being the 8th of November 2018, here's our list of birthdays. Dan Victor, Surviving the Media, celebrated on November 4th. Spencer Whitney celebrates today. Baron Sir Craig celebrates tomorrow. And John Jolly, surprise, turned 73 on November 25th, and he still reads the New York Times without glasses. It's unbelievable. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe. And we do have one daming today, which is nice. I'll get my sword ready for you there. Do you have something?
Yeah, that's right. I got it. Got it.
Good. All right. Emily, step on up to the podium, Emily. Thanks to your lovely spouse, you are about to be damed here at the No Agenda Night Round Table of the Knights and Dames. And I'm very proud to pronounce the KP. Dame Emily of Eastern Oregon. Dame Emily, for you, we have Hookers and Blow, Rent Boys and Chardonnay, should you like it, Warm Beer and Cold Women. We got Waifus and Waffles, Pog and Poi. We got Kebab and Persian Wine, Pinball and Power Chords, Diet Soda and Video Games. Maybe you want some Breast Milk and Pablum. We got Bong Hits and Bourbon, Cycling and Sparkling Cider and Escorts, Cowgirls and Coffin Varnish, Bong Hits and Bourbon, or if you want ginger ale and gerbils and mutton and mead. There you go. Head over to noagendanation.com/rings. Your mutton and mead is waiting there. And also make sure you give Eric the Shill your ring size. And we look forward to you at the round table. Nice to have you.
Title changes, turn and face the slave. Title changes, don't want to be a douchebag.
A couple of of title changes today. Sir 10T becomes Duke of the Federal Reserve District 7. Congratulations. Sir Alexander Helpel of Man from Afar becomes Baronet Sir Economic Hitman. And, man, our producers take it seriously, don't they? And Sir Richard Bangs becomes the Baron of D.C. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you for supporting the No Agenda Show. The upgrade, etc., all comes in $1,000 increments. And that's how you get to knighthood. We've had people who've been on layaway plans for 7-8 years. They've achieved it. It's a big unlock quest. But anyone who just supports us, whether it's with information, whether it's with producership, subscription, whether it's with art, whether it's with jingles, it's all appreciated. And it really is the only way that this model works. The only other thing you didn't discuss on the Grimerica show is that if we didn't work with our producers and we view our audience as producers, it wouldn't be possible. There's just no way.
No, it wouldn't be as good.
It would. I don't think there's a lot that's done by the producers.
It's a modern show. You have to do. Audience is now part of the show in a modern sense. We're not doing some old-fashioned radio show like an NPR thing where you're talking into a mic in a very quiet room.
Yes,
and it's dead.
Hi, this is the No Agenda Show, and there's John C. Dvorak. John, what are you learning?
I'm learning that there's a lot to be learned.
Okay, that's very good. Let's go to another topic here on NPR.
So I do have a letter from, this is a good one from Vinny. ITM, I hear in episode 1083, the Democracy Now! Report about 56,000 immigrants missing or killed worldwide over the last 4 years and an increase in migration of 50% since the turn of the century. I live in Cambodia, recently relocated from Uganda, where my wife works in the development sector. A big accomplishment of hers has been assisting in the support of South Sudan refugees, over 1 million of which have crossed into Uganda in the last course of years. I don't know what that quite means. He's got a last number of years, and are living at the Bidi Bidi settlement, the largest refugee camp. Yeah, Bidi Bidi. The largest refugee camp in existence. There are mostly women and children, and men tend to bring their families to safety, and then they cross back over to fight in the war. So what I see is the opportunity to fold these statistics of women and children refugees, along with husbands that cross back into South Sudan to fight and then either die or go missing, into the statistics of Mexican migration by throwing in the adjective worldwide.
Ah, yes. Good point.
Which is basically comparing apples and oranges or apples and bananas. Completely disingenuous of them to do so, of course, and a perfect example of how to lie with statistics. Thank you for your courage, Vinny.
Yeah. I saw the note.
Talk about our producers, and there you go.
Well, then let me share a note that was forwarded to me by one of our producers, who shall remain anonymous in this case, from Humboldt University. Where is this? Humboldt University.
It's in Humboldt. I believe it's in Humboldt County, Mendocino County area.
Is that a big deal school?
Northern California.
Is that an important school? Good school? I've heard of it.
It's for a state college. It's one of the better ones.
Well, the faculty received an email. Dear colleagues, all faculty are encouraged to participate in the upcoming 2-part Whiteness and Microaggressions training on Thursday, November 15th. I just have to read this. The Whiteness and Microaggressions training, the dates were selected with input that more faculty would be available during these times. This 4-hour workshop, divided into 2 2-hour segments, this is exciting, will offer an introduction to the concept of whiteness, the significance. Stay with me.
Thanks. Jeez, I was wondering what it was all about.
Stay with me. I got to read it again. This 4-hour workshop divided. I'm going to do an industrial voiceover for an industrial video. This 4-hour workshop, divided into 2 2-hour segments, will offer an introduction to the concept of whiteness, the significance of whiteness in our everyday lives, and how whiteness shapes our interactions. The training examines how whiteness affects various systems of advantage and what that looks like in our community. Additionally, It will explore how microaggressions are a manifestation of whiteness. The training will address what microaggressions are, how we can identify them, and how they impact our daily interactions with one another. Finally, the training will examine strategies to confront and avoid committing microaggressions. We welcome you to participate and join the more than 300 HSU campus and community members that have already participated in these whiteness sessions. Your participation will broaden the circle of shared language and understandings to facilitate change for equity in classrooms, on campus, and in the community.
Well, first of all, you'd think it was a hoax.
No, it's not. I haven't the original email forwarded. It's not a hoax. Sent by Julie
really
Tucker,
pathetic.
Julie Tucker at Humboldt.edu.
I would love to take this course. I bet you it's a hoot.
I mean, did you know that microaggressions are a manifestation of whiteness?
I didn't know that, but I if I took this course, I think I would understand it better.
Well, it's on November 15th.
I'm not going for that. Don't give me any details.
Come on, man.
You know how far that is from here? It's like a real hike.
You don't care about the show. You don't care about the show. But it's all right. I'm
hurting this show.
Let's just stick with whiteness. Let's go to NPR for a moment and talk about the right-wing hate groups.
Yes, and there's plenty of them.
Yes, NPR has figured out where they're coming from.
Joan Donovan is with Data and Society, a research institute. For years, she's been tracking white supremacists from platform to platform online.
They were really trying to figure out...
They're jumping from platform to platform. It's like Frogger. God, I'm trying to find... Oh, he jumped over there.
Platform to platform online.
They were really trying to figure out what young men were angry about and how they could leverage that to bring about broad-based social movement.
This is the hate groups. They're trying to figure... Where would you recruit young hate men, John? Where would you go if you wanted to recruit the hate? The hate.
Texas?
Now we already got rid of Gab, although they're back. But Gab is white, racist, nationalist, horrible people. Where could it more can be?
And first-person shooter games, chat rooms, and video platforms, she says, are good places to find angry young men. Video games are $100 billion.
I love that. These are great places to find angry young men. Seriously.
And video platforms, she says, are good places to find angry young men. Video games are a $100 billion industry. So what are companies' responsibilities to ensure that teens won't encounter hate groups? Greg Boyd is a lawyer who represents the game industry for the firm Frankfurt Kernet. He says companies take the problem seriously and remove or ban people when they're flagged by other players. But the scale of the issue is daunting.
You're talking about Microsoft, PlayStation, and Steam. You're talking about 48 million, 70 million, and 130 million monthly active players or players that are playing, probably on a weekly basis. I mean, that's the populations of Spain, France, and Russia.
Imagine, he says, moderating all that chat, text and voice, moment by moment.
In literally every language, dialect, and subdialect spoken in the world.
While the industry struggles to contain the threat, experts say it's up to parents to keep an ear out and to step in if they notice something that concerns them. John tried, and lately he says his son, now 16, seems to have left these ideas behind. He's playing fewer online shooter games, and on his own, he started attending church.
Oh, he's saved! He's saved!
Well, this brings up an interesting point. Rockstar Games is probably the most aggressive game maker, and they could probably recruit a lot of people. But there's this video. There's a lot of these guys, the better players, will post some of the action that they achieve on YouTube, and some of this has been taken down. Especially this one player whose name eludes me, and I'm sorry for that. But he's got segments of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is really
yes.
It's like Grand Theft Auto, which they also make.
Always bring that one in, yeah.
It's Grand Theft Auto on steroids in the West, and so I didn't get to see the one that they took down, but this guy apparently plays a character who goes around punching women, and so he's got.
That's only white guys do that, by the way. That's all the white football players.
No, never punched a woman on Red Dead.
Not football players. No.
So he has one clip that's still up there, and there is something funny about it in some sick way. I have to say, being a white guy that does a bunch of aggressions. So the guy is running around, and this is so realistic, it's astonishing. But he's running around town, and there's some woman suffragette, kind of a fat chick, standing there lecturing everybody about the right to vote. And so the player stops in front of her, and she's going on and on about the right to vote, and he has a couple of snide remarks, and she calls him out for being a jerk, and he just sucker punches her and knocks her on her ass, bam, and then he goes running off again back into just through the town, and this will be taken down for sure.
And this is what game now?
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Nice.
Now, I would recommend this game. Looks like it's hilarious.
It sounds really funny. Can you get the black version so you're like, hitting white people?
I was looking at one review of it. This game it's kind of like
it's broken sales records. Apparently, this thing is huge.
It is so deep. It has layers and layers and layers of different things. You could probably be on this game for a year and not even explore half of it.
Now, and so basically you run around walloping social justice warriors. Is that the idea?
No, I actually no. No, the idea is it's pretty much like Grand Theft Auto. You're giving certain jobs, and you have to go accomplish something, and you get a key.
Sounds like something I'd be bored with very quickly.
It's tedious. It seems to me. I'm not a big fan of these sort of. I mean, I like to play little bits of them because you can punch people or whatever.
Well, see, that's that aggression, the microaggressions in your whiteness. You're white,
and but if you really like these complex games that have a lot of detail. Man, this thing looks like just a killer.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, do that.
I'm a little surprised. It doesn't happen often, and I had a jingle for it, which is why I'm bummed. You have no ISO for me.
Oh, what? What, for Red Dead?
No, just any. You have no ISO for the end of the show. You have no ISO. ISO in there. ISO in there.
Well, I will next show. You're right. I don't have one. I was thinking about it. I didn't get any. I do have a couple of things. We do have to talk about Jeff Sessions getting fired.
Well, before we talk about that, I need to just give my final review of the 4-part series from Al Jazeera, which was quashed and subsequently, I think, aired by RT, or at least put on the internet, called The Israeli Lobby. Because I watched it's almost 4 hours. The whole thing is about the Israelis versus the BDS. So that's the boycott, divest, and what's the S for? Come on.
I don't remember.
It's basically the Israelis versus the Palestinians, and it's being played out. Boycott, divest. I don't remember the last one. It's being played out.
Sanction.
Thank you. It's being played out in our schools. So the Israelis through embassies, and they have actual recruitment centers. Israeli on campus, the community center, and you've got the social justice for Palestine, the SJPers. This has to stop. All of it. It's not interesting. It's a very stupid documentary because it pretends that, I'm sure there's an Israeli lobby. What is in this documentary is just dumb because the kids in college campuses are being indoctrinated by all sorts of groups all the time. But these two, the Israel and the Palestine, the BDS, I'm so tired. Get off all campuses, both of you. Get off.
Well, I will, yes. When I first went to the University of California, it was going on. They were arguing with each other, and they were always gathering a crowd. It's just never ending.
Yeah. And
it's old.
Hummus.
The Muslims make the best hummus.
I don't know, man.
Okay, let's get this Jeff Sessions thing out of the way. I have a weird CBS News opening about Session we might want to play, 26 seconds.
Okay.
By the way, the good ISO would be Trump and his promises.
too long.
It's 12 seconds.
That's too long.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Glor. We are going to begin here tonight with a major shakeup in Washington. We are not talking about the election yet. We will talk soon about what happened in the House with Democrats taking control. The president said today he would like to work with them, even though they do have newfound power to investigate him. But we are going to start here tonight with the afternoon dismissal of the Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his replacement by a critic of the Mueller investigation.
Now, I've never heard a news opening that has a bunch of excuses for not running the story of the day, which is the elections.
Yes.
He starts off apologizing immediately. He's just short of saying, we've been, again, manipulated by Trump into not even doing our regular news. Now we got to talk about this Sessions thing. And we apologize. I've never heard anything like this in my life.
Let me hear it again.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Glor. We are going to begin here tonight with a major shakeup in Washington. We are not talking about the election yet. We will talk soon about what happened in the House with Democrats taking control. The president said today he would like to work with them, even though they do have newfound power to investigate him. But we are going to start here tonight with the afternoon dismissal of the attorney.
Yeah, they did kind of just throw that into highlights. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't think especially with the elections, but you realize that today at 5 o'clock is the big Protect Mueller demonstration in 9,000 cities across America.
Gee, that's not organized.
But I also said there was one thing I think you should know that I want to tell you about this tonight.
Here's your organizer.
And one thing I want to tell you is that there are groups all across the country who have been preparing for months now for the inevitable day when President Trump would take action to end the Mueller investigation. Today, those groups decided...
Say what?
He hasn't done anything.
That this is it. That this is the break glass in case of emergency moment for which they have been preparing and organizing for months.
Oh, my goodness.
And so they have said it's a go. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. local time all over the country, there are already over 900 protests planned to hashtag Protect Mueller. You have been reading for months about these organizing efforts, about what people should do in case of emergency to save Mueller's team, to save its work, to prepare, to preserve this investigation. The groups who have been working on this decided today that what happened today with the firing of Jeff Sessions and the installation of this new guy to oversee the Mueller investigation, the groups who have been working on this for months today decided that today is that emergency. So we expect protests all over the country. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. local time. I just looked online before I got on the set. There are more than 900 of them planned already across the country.
Orange man bad. Orange man bad. There you go. That should be fun. Protect Mueller.
Is that tonight or tomorrow?
Today. That's today. That's 2 days.
Today at 5 o'clock all over the world are going to be protesting?
From Tel Aviv to Paris, Texas.
Wow.
Yes, protect Mueller. Let's see how organized it really is.
You don't do things like this during the middle of the week.
You don't do it after the election. Well, I guess they had. This is the break glass in case of emergency. Yeah.
Okay, so we have to do. I got the rundown. I got 3 different rundowns on Sessions, but I got the best one. It's the shortest. In fact, it's not that short, but it's shorter than all the rest of them, because they all had to do homage to this guy. But it's more enjoyable because it's Jeff Pegues,
hey everybody,
the only real journalist working in broadcasting.
That's right. I'm a real journalist, and I got to pinch one out, man.
Justice Department employees saluted Attorney General Jeff Sessions as he departed the building hours after resigning. Earlier, he delivered a letter to the White House, which started bluntly, "Dear Mr. President, at your request, I am submitting my resignation." CBS News has learned White House Chief of Staff John Kelly called Sessions this morning to inform him of the president's decision. But at a midday press conference, President Trump did not tip his hand when asked about Sessions by CBS News Major Garrett.
And can you give us clarity, sir, on your thinking currently, now after the midterms, about your Attorney General and your Deputy Attorney General? Do they have long-term job security?
I'd rather answer that at a little bit different time. We're looking at a lot of different things.
Shortly after the press conference, Mr. Trump tweeted the news and said of Sessions, We wish him well. It was a dramatic, if not surprising, end for one of the president's earliest campaign supporters. But less than a month after being confirmed as Attorney General, Sessions angered the president by recusing himself from overseeing the Russia investigation. Career prosecutors at the Justice Department had advised him to do so because of his contacts with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak during the 2016 campaign. The president has railed against the move ever since, frequently disparaging Sessions on Twitter as very weak.
Railed is now a word that they use over there? Railed? That's
well, they can't use lashed out, which is being overused by Democracy Now! And a few other, and the New York Times, so they have to come up with something different.
Railed. Yeah.
Railed against the move ever since, frequently disparaging Sessions on Twitter as very weak.
And Jeff Sessions never took control of the Justice Department, and it's a sort of an incredible thing. I'm disappointed in the Attorney General for many reasons.
After Sessions' recusal, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein took over the Russia probe as special counsel Robert Mueller indicted 35 people and companies, including some of the president's top campaign officials. But now Rosenstein will likely also be sidelined, and newly appointed acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker will oversee the investigation. Whitaker, Sessions' chief of staff and a former U.S. attorney from Iowa, has been critical of the Russia probe in the past and has written that it could become a political fishing expedition. In this interview, he spoke about the president's criticism of Sessions.
It's clear the president's trying to put enough pressure on Jeff Sessions so that Jeff does what the president, I believe, would think would just be honorable.
Even though Whitaker's thinking appears to be in line with the president's thinking as far as the Russia investigation is concerned, Mr. Trump tweeted today that he will be nominating someone else at a later date. One potential candidate, Lindsey Graham, appeared to suggest today that he will not be interested in the job, saying that he will stay in the Senate.
Man, wouldn't that be great if Lindsey Graham got
Lindsey Graham would be funny.
That'd be
but have
fantastic.
you seen this guy, Whitaker?
Yeah, he looks like a beast.
He's about 6'6", bald, and a picture on Twitter. Somebody pointed this out. His picture on his Twitter page is him. Looks like he's bench pressing about 650 pounds.
Oh man,
big giant weights. I mean, this guy. He just I don't know where they found him, but he is some tough customer looking guy.
Man.
Anyway.
So okay. What's the play? What's your takeaway?
I think it's just that this nothing. This is not the play. This is just it's obviously going to draw these people out of the woodwork. I think this. I think they may just pull the. I think.
Tell me what you really are trying to say.
Perhaps they're going to maybe cut the budget on the probe because it's wasting a lot of money, and I don't see that it's getting anywhere. I mean, how long does it take to prove this?
Well, Trump has been very clear, and he said this multiple times. He said, I could fire everybody, but I won't do it because politically it's the wrong thing to do. He's letting it play out.
Yeah.
So he's pretty sure of himself.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it's going to depend on the tax thing. I do have a Jeff Glorick clip because I want to comment on him a little bit. He's the CBS anchor, took over from Anthony Mason.
Yes. Okay,
when you see Glory, looks like a 12-year-old. It looks like a kid.
It's the last one you get, John. We're running long.
Really? Because we had a...
we're long.
Okay. This is the last one. The only reason I clipped this is because I heard him. He uses a double mic lav.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see him, if you just listen to his voice and you see him in a group when he's talking, he's got the big voice.
Okay.
He's like a little guy with a big voice. He's got a beautiful voice. But I caught him trying to talk about something, and I think it was kind of off the record or off the cuff, I mean.
Yeah.
And he does say
a lot.
More than he should.
Sorry.
Chops. Anyway, you can hear it.
Yeah, it started off with a good right there. I like it.
So the sort of reached out last night, also reached out today. Then we saw what Nancy Pelosi had to say. Is there any chance something gets done here in the next couple of years?
I'm highly skeptical. I think the president doesn't fully appreciate how intrusive these investigations are going to be. There's a number of committees that have oversight, the subpoena powers they have, to subpoena documents, to subpoena any official in the administration they want. They're going to start going into the bowels of a range of different agencies. And when he says there'll be a little investigating, we'll do some, they'll do some, this is highly intrusive. The base of the Democratic Party wants this. And I think he has like one speed, which is war footing. If you were at war with me, I'm at war with you. And he's not going to be interested in cooperating with him on anything else.
Dan, go ahead.
I think that Dan's absolutely right. You always have to assume that Congress won't get something done. But Democrats are arguing they can walk and chew gum. They say Republicans had no trouble investigating the Obama administration and still trying to work with President Obama to, let's say, cut government spending. And they say that they can do the same thing and that these presidential threats are empty threats. They say he needs to show a record of accomplishment 2 years from now, so he's going to be compelled to work with them.
He is, Dan, in a more advantageous position, at least with the increased pickup in the Senate now, though.
Yeah, he's got a broader conference. He's got more Republicans in this conference. And the Republicans that replaced sitting Republicans are more Trumpy, right? Marsha Blackburn is a stronger Trump sympathizer than Bob Corker. So he's got a stronger conference.
Meaning he has to worry less about Susan Collins, potentially Lisa Murkowski on issues like cabinet, whatever else it is.
Particularly, he's going to have a combative confirmation process for new Attorney General, and he now has more of a cushion with more Republicans and more Republicans that are sympathetic to him.
That helps him with all judicial nominations.
Okay, Nancy Cordes, Dan Steno, thanks very much.
My eyes glazed over. Stop the pain. What were they talking about?
I think they were telling us that we've got a great show coming up because of all the conflict that's going to go on, the crazy investigations, Maxine Waters, and all these other guys. This is going to be the greatest era of the No Agenda show is what they were discussing.
I think you are spot on.
Without mentioning the show, unfortunately.
But you know they were thinking it. My God, this is going to be great for the No Agenda show. Oh, my goodness. Well, everybody, there you go. Now you know how it all sticks together, what's happening. You can find a lot of this information in our show notes. Go to nashownotes.com. That's the main page. It's where you really want to go for everything, for your entire archive as well. And a reminder that we will come back on Sunday with another episode of the No Agenda Show to deconstruct what's happened in the meantime. And I know I'm going straight from the podcast closet to the C-SPANs and the other networks, so we'll have everything for you. Coming to you from downtown Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State, here in FEMA Region number 6 in the 5x9 Cludio in the Common Law Condo. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from Northern Silicon Valley, I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Sunday right here on No Agenda. Remember us at dvorak.org/NA. Until then, adios, mofos.
So keep that open joke shit, 'cause I don't fall.
He starts to stutter.
It's this group of folks.
Eric Holder. Yeah, I know they all look alike. No, I was paid by Mark Zuckerberg. Okay.
Ramrodding. Because, Senator Warren, I don't look for every opportunity to try to grandstand. Now, I didn't want to call you responding to the mayor of Somerville making a pretty negative statement.
Or like President Obama, trying to do a little bit of Trumpiest.
It's this group of folks. It's this group of folks.
I keep trying to point out people not to demonize.
Should we keep this going for a little while?
Yes.
There's a lot to talk about. There was no anything. I didn't. It's a problem that I don't like even a little bit. Okay, please, go ahead. No. Go ahead. Please. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jim. Okay, please, go ahead. No. Go ahead. Please, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, sure. Go ahead, Mr. President. No. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. When you get bored, would you please tell me? Seriously. Tell me. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Mr. President, I'm from Brooklyn, so you'll understand me.
Okay, please, go ahead. No. Go ahead. Please, go ahead.
Some say that you could stop all this by declassifying...
Good, I could fire everybody right now. I didn't call you. I didn't call you. I don't want to overstay, but yes, please go ahead. I mean, I'm extraordinarily happy. And if I wasn't, I'd let you know. There's nothing wrong. I mean, look, I only had me. I didn't have anybody else.
It's been over
a long time. No collusion. I don't know who Little John is. I come in here as a nice person.
I feel very fine.
I am extraordinarily happy. I really am. And by the way, I'd tell you if I wasn't. That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
that's enough.
I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Mr. President, that's enough. Turkey.
It's very difficult to stay sane. I mean, I smoke a lot of weed and I do this show, so like, I'm good. Insane. Christina Curry, Tina the Keeper, Mimi, Jay, the Adorable, the Shill, and the whole Curry, Dvorak, No Agenda family.
Insane. Be in good company with the insane No Agenda family.
That's right. We're just insane.
Insane.
The best podcast in the universe.
Adios, mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Stop the hammering!